The government has no idea. I have eyes that can see through everything. I can not only see everyone's information, but also anticipate their actions and thoughts. So when the government wanted to prevent me from destroying the world, when 2 big shots were sent to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me, I immediately sensed something was wrong. The woman who adopted me was beautiful and gentle, but the message above her head shocked me deeply. Above her head appeared Aoi Shirasaki, the top superpowered user of the National Anomaly Countermeasures Bureau. She was full of curiosity about Haruto Minase's uniqueness, hoping to get Haruto Minase back on track and prevent a misstep from causing a big fire. Then he turned to look at the man himself. His face was almost expressionless, but his eyes carried a hint of human involvement. His ordinary features made him look sharp and dangerous, making this future father seem difficult to get along with. The second time I looked at the information above his head, I saw the Bureau's ultimate ace, a peerless powerhouse capable of destroying an entire nation alone. The Bureau's prophet had predicted that a person who would one day destroy the world would appear at Hoshikawa Children's Home, at the cost of the prophet's own power. Reiji Kurogane had been ordered to make contact with the new Sequence 001 ability user, Haruto Minase, and confirm the situation as the Bureau's final safeguard. He kept his vigilance hidden and studied me carefully. He could not understand how a little boy could possess enough power to destroy the world, but he remained ready for anything at all times. Hey, I froze on the spot. What strongest ability user of the modern era? World-ending destruction, my God. My eyes instantly cleared. The appearance and confidence I had built up over the years collapsed on the spot. I knew all too well that I didn't have the ability to destroy worlds. Could a little boy really have stats like that? I really want to ask if these two have made a mistake. But as soon as he saw the words like strongest ability user of the modern era displayed on Reiji Kurogane's head, he couldn't get the words out and was nearly scared to tears. I began to seriously suspect that this world was buggy. I hadn't even left the newbie village before a max-level hero blocked the door and kept pressing down on me. This was terrifying, bro. The director gently patted my back, signaling me to step forward. Haruto Minase, these two are Mr. Reiji Kurogane and Ms. Aoi Shirasaki. Greetings to your future parents. From now on, you will be one family. I turned to look at the director, his eyes full of relief and happiness that I finally had a home, and he sincerely sent me his blessings. Well, the director has no idea what's going on here. I really wanted to shake my head and refuse on the spot, but judging from the information above Reiji Kurogane and Aoi Shirasaki's heads, even refusing wouldn't change the outcome. Their backgrounds are absurdly large, making them a national giant, although I could only force out a soft, gentle greeting. I looked like an introverted Shota, a kid. In my previous life, I wasn't considered an elite either, and facing someone so far beyond my understanding, I had no confidence at all. There are many sayings that I especially don't agree with others when they start doubting your world-destroying power when it's best if you truly have that kind of strength. Aoi Shirasaki nudged Reiji Kurogane with her elbow, quietly reminding him not to keep a stern face. Reiji Kurogane had no choice but to temporarily withdraw his gaze, sizing him up. No matter how you look at him, he is just a weak boy. How could he possibly possess the power to destroy the world? No, the Prophet Sesam's predictions have never been wrong, which made him never let his guard down. Perhaps that force was now just dormant. Don't be afraid, Aoi Shirasaki. Take a step forward, crouch in front of me, and keep our gaze at the same level. His smile was gentle, with no trace of insincerity. Hello, Haruto Minase. I'm your mother. Would you like to be family with us? I couldn't help but curl my lips and say, Mom, I'm not playing house. How could I possibly treat someone I meet for the first time as my mom? Don't think you can do whatever you want just because you're gentle. But just then, a sound check suddenly sounded in my mind. If the system detects a target, listen to the Patchwork Home system. Further activate the system, which is dedicated to creating a harmonious and beautiful family environment, and build good relationships with your family members to receive corresponding rewards. Listen to Patchwork Home. Where does the abstract system come from? Aoi Shirasaki is struggling to build a good relationship with you. If you can call her Mom, she'll be very happy, and the host will also gain 5 attribute points. My eyes lit up instantly. Mom, without hesitation, I threw myself into Aoi Shirasaki's arms, throwing all my guards aside. The joy and excitement filled in that word, Mom, were absolutely undeniable. I made my decision on the spot. From today onward, being an adoptive father doesn't matter. Just watch me use everything I've learned from anime and novels to raise this son properly. But I've never raised a son, but I've already had enough experience in anime and novels, so now I'm jumping straight into real combat. Aoi Shirasaki was stunned. The progress was so fast. Logically, a child who is afraid of birth shouldn't open up so quickly. The investigation data provided by the department was very detailed. Haruto Minase didn't like to interact with people, spending most of his time holed up in his room, spacing out. Compared to the other children at Hoshikawa Children's Home, he seemed like people from 2 completely different worlds. From this, it can be inferred that his personality is probably introverted, shy around strangers, and somewhat withdrawn. Aoi Shirasaki had already prepared himself for a prolonged battle with gentle attacks before coming. The outcome was resolved so easily. Could it be that she really has the talent to be a mother? Aoi Shirasaki, who had never raised a son before, couldn't help but wonder to herself. Although he couldn't figure out exactly what was going on, everything looked fine from the outcome. Aoi Shirasaki wanted to suppress her joy, but the smile at the corner of her mouth just wouldn't be suppressed. She hugged me tightly from behind, her voice growing gentler. Mom, from today on, you are my son. I won't let anyone hurt you." At that moment, Aoi Shirasaki's protective instincts for me were ignited to the fullest. Riji Kurogane saw this scene and shook his head silently. A woman's overflowing motherly love ultimately affects judgment, and the target's appearance indeed carries a strong sense of confusion. Not only Aoi Shirasaki's lips couldn't be suppressed, no matter how hard she tried. Throwing myself into his arms, I couldn't help but smile at the corners of my mouth. Initial friendly relationship with the target character is rewarded without attribute points. So tough. I originally thought I was going for the go-I useless style, but unexpectedly, it was a stat building build. Now I finally felt confident, and even my inner unease dissipated by a wide margin. Seeing this, the elder couldn't help but smile with relief. Haruto Minase likes you so much, so I feel at ease. Even though I feel a lot of reluctance inside, I still feel genuinely happy. The adoption procedures went exceptionally smoothly. In fact, the relevant authorities had already prepared everything before they arrived. The process of adopting a boy from this seemingly ordinary Hoshikawa Children's Home went smoothly without a hitch. Holding Aoi Shirasaki's hand tightly, he followed her out of Hoshikawa Children's Home gate. Reiji Kurogane and Aoi Shirasaki drove a small car to pick me up. I obediently climbed into the back seat, quietly looking forward to their future life. Aoi Shirasaki gently placed her hand on my head, stroking it as if it was the first time truly experiencing the joy of raising a son. Not to mention, in front of him was a cute, white-haired kid who made you want to pet him, like a little animal that was endearing. It was an incredible experience. To be a mother in such a way was truly a blessing. The overwhelming maternal love in Aoi Shirasaki's chest continued to overflow. Fortunately, she was no ordinary person and could stay clear-headed, not being captivated by her appearance for long. Aoi restrained the urge to hold me tightly. Smile at the corner of your mouth. Get ready to go home. We're already at home, helping you prepare daily necessities. If you need anything else, just let me know. Thank you, Mom. I responded politely with words, but not blindly optimistic inside. Based on the information revealed by both of them, I have pretty much figured out the current situation. Even if I am destined to be someone who might destroy the world in the future, the state has not taken any radical measures. This gentle yet somewhat concealed approach is likely the result of countless internal discussions. Or, from higher-level predictions and judgments, at least for the short term, I don't have to worry about my life. Next, it depends on what kind of message these parents want to get from me. Thinking of this, I sneaked a glance at Aoi Shirasaki. She was staring at me too, her eyes seeming to sparkle with a faint smile. Is there something you'd like to share with me? I just wanted to see more of your words. My instinctive words blurted out were like striking the softest spot in Aoi Shirasaki's heart. I almost made her open her arms on the spot. With such an innocent look and such a dependent, feeble remark, can anyone really resist? Aoi Shirasaki, who can watch as long as I want, I won't run away. Her childish coaxing tone almost coaxed me back to the embryo, the shape of the embryo, and the government of the embryo. Absolutely no, I don't know what to say. I just want to see the numbers above his head. Once the home system is fully activated, I can clearly see my family's panels. The panel shows talent, dedication, spirit 10, 21, strength 15, 2, stamina 17, 2, agility 14, 2. The numbers are so outrageous, I almost exclaimed on the spot. This is practically a cheat code. Although I still can't figure out exactly what these numbers represent, just comparing them to my own stats makes it instantly clear how big the gap is. Even Aoi Shirasaki's panel is exaggerated like this. And how strong is Reiji Kurogane, known as the strongest in modern times? I couldn't help but turn my gaze to Reiji Kurogane, who was driving. The panel immediately appeared. Skills, Surging Storm, Spirit 125, Strength 1188, Stamina 153, Agility 3016. What kind of outrageous number is this? Who is trying to destroy the world? From Aoi Shirasaki to Reiji Kurogane, his numbers have expanded tenfold and is far beyond that. If this were in the game, the devs would be exiled to space by players. At that moment, Reiji Kurogane sensed that strange gaze. His gaze followed the rearview mirror and met my gaze directly. Feeling guilty, he immediately withdrew his gaze and continued to seriously play the role of a weak, powerless little boy. He was like a ball of white fur, sitting in his seat, just shrank a little more and was just a little more of a real fur ball. Reiji Kurogane quickly withdrew his gaze. His reaction to me wasn't surprising. Compared to Aoi Shirasaki's gentle temperament, he really did make children nervous and scared more easily. Leaving the matter of building good relationships to Aoi Shirasaki is enough. He needs to keep an eye on my fundamental changes, like whether my power level is fluctuating. So far, there hasn't been any change. In Reiji Kurogane's eyes, I was like a harmless cotton, with no value in me at all. I completely quieted down and sat like a delicate porcelain doll. Aoi Shirasaki didn't disturb the journey, smiling as she watched me. He truly couldn't imagine that such an adorable child would have something powerful enough to destroy the world. Abilities. If you haven't awakened them, you probably haven't awakened them yet. Otherwise, that kind of mental power fluctuation would never be hidden. After Aoi Shirasaki's emotions cooled, she began to think about what she would do if he awakened his powers. Would I honestly confess my own abnormality to myself and Reiji Kurogane as parents? And then how should I respond as a mother? Or take the initiative to reveal my identity and bring me back to Kasumigaseki headquarters? Or pretend to know nothing? This is a topic repeatedly discussed by Kasumigaseki headquarters decision-makers, determining whether the final outcome can be changed. I also calculated in my mind that this sudden departmental adoption would completely disrupt my original plan. All I want is to earn some fame when I grow up and live a happy, slacking off, but someone just jumped out and claimed that I would destroy the world in the future. Judging by this outrageously ridiculous worldview, I probably wouldn't win the award. I really can't understand how a little boy like me, who has never pursued much and just wants to slack off, could possibly go to destroy the world. It's not like you're some overtime slave working overtime to death. How could you have that kind of grudge that the world is about to explode? Then I can only slightly revise the label. Since the government suspects I have the power to destroy the world, I might as well really have it. So here's the question. How should you allocate the extra 5 attribute points? The government has no idea I have eyes that can see through everything. I can not only see everyone's information, but also anticipate their actions and thoughts. So when the government tries to prevent me from dooming the world, when 2 big shots were sent to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me, I immediately sensed that something was wrong. The car slowly drove into Sakuragaoka Heights, and I pressed my gaze to the scenery outside the window, my face full of curiosity. This was where I would live from now on. Aoi Shirasaki nodded gently. The security and environment in Sakuragaoka Heights are very good. If you don't get used to living here, you can buy a villa in the future. Hearing this, I couldn't help but mutter to myself, with your background, arranging a villa isn't easy, but if they set me up with such a high-end luxury home right away, it would definitely arouse suspicion. Living in a residential community first is probably because of educational concerns, fearing the starting point would be too high and distorting values. I'm not really a clueless kid. This neighborhood really looks upscale, but for someone like me who lived in the old neighborhood in my previous life, it's already way more upscale. Overall, it already satisfies me. Looks like you're quite satisfied. Aoi Shirasaki caught a flash of anticipation in my eyes and couldn't help but smile slightly. She had worried before that I'd end up like a kitten and that changing to a new environment would be hard to adapt. After parking the car, Reiji Kurogane and Aoi Shirasaki took me upstairs by elevator, all the way to the 11th floor. I stepped into my brand new home, and the layout inside instantly caught my eye. The luxurious decoration was dazzling and deeply moved me. Before I could even say a word, Aoi Shirasaki led me to a room door. This is your future room. We've already prepared everything for you, so let's go in and see if you like it. The room is very large, with vibrant colors and style, a nice style, and a warm side. The overall layout is especially suitable for boys. It's obvious they've been carefully researched, and I really like it. If you don't like it, you can swap it for Aoi Shirasaki's ability to read people's moods perfectly. Ming decorated it in the style most popular among boys on the market. Why is my expression still so stiff? Aoi Shirasaki thought, as she briefly sank into the first god. Fortunately, I'm not too picky, so I can barely accept a new lifestyle as a little boy, so let's just leave it at that. Then what else could you want? Mom can do her best to fulfill all of it. He took a deep breath. His gaze became especially resolute. You can't buy me a phone. Soon, I successfully got my own phone device. Reiji Kurogane and Aoi Shirasaki had already prepared everything. In fact, neither of them expected my request to be met so easily. The phone was already part of their plan, and even if I didn't mention it, they would proactively give me electronic devices. But sometimes, gathering information is a crucial part of gathering information and is much more efficient than asking directly. Seeing my eyes sparkling with my research phone, Aoi Shirasaki finally breathed a sigh of relief. The first step of the task was complete, so the second step could only be taken slowly. Enjoy your private time. Your dad and I still have things to handle. We've saved our phone numbers and must contact us if anything comes up. Aoi Shirasaki raised her hand and gently ruffled my hair. I asked, and Haruto nodded vigorously like a chick pecking at rice. This is exactly the private space I've always dreamed of. I really need it. Although it might not be very private, it's still better than sticking close to these two all the time. The overwhelming sense of oppression from the defiant Raijin was really strong. Even now, I still didn't dare to take the initiative to talk to him. Fortunately, he had no intention of communicating with me at all. He didn't look like a typical father or a patchwork home system. The system showed no reaction at all for now, which actually turned out to be a good thing for me. I closed the door. Wow, and threw myself onto the soft bed. I couldn't help but roll on top several times, barely managing to suppress my excitement. The originally fresh white hair was suddenly thrown into chaos, but even so, it didn't affect my good mood at all. I never expected to live such a happy life without working hard to become obsessed. It was simply amazing. I lay motionless on the bed like a lazy slacker. Better not to reveal too much of the abnormality than to be better off than to know if there might be surveillance cameras in the room. He always felt countless invisible eyes staring at him. Better to first think carefully about how to allocate non-attribute points. Based on the panel data, comparing Reiji Kuragane's and Reijin's values, the importance of mental power is far superior to other attributes, mostly directly related to supernatural abilities. He noticed that both Aoi Shirasaki and Reiji Kuragane's panels clearly displayed supernatural abilities, while he himself was empty and empty. Maybe he just hadn't awakened yet. Listen carefully. Adding a system counted as supernatural powers Probably not. There was only one answer left. Following the path of that Raijin for point allocation was definitely a safe bet. The system adds all attribute points to mental power. I still don't fully understand the specifics of the ability system, but I can start by following the example and exploring it bit by bit based on the experience accumulated from countless musical films in his previous life. Mental power is undoubtedly the most important factor, mostly related to the power output of superpowers. The government has no idea. I have eyes that can see through everything. I can not only see everyone's information, but also anticipate their actions and thoughts. So when the government tries to prevent me from being destroyed, when 2 big shots were sent to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me, I immediately sensed that something was wrong. I have no idea how other ability users' attribute points come from. I have no idea, but the system gives them away for free, so there's no need to worry about not obtaining them. Just copy the cat and increase it accordingly. Before I could really feel whether I had changed, the system sent feedback again. Your mental power broke through 10 points in one go, and your ability awakened and fissioned. Panel data will grant split-type boosts, currently with 1 fission count, and the remaining potential effects still need to be explored gradually. I almost stopped breathing for several seconds before taking a breath of oxygen. This ability is so pure, and the effect is absurdly pure. I can almost foresee that one day in the future, I truly have the power to destroy the world. If I manage to grow successfully, then who would deserve to be called the true Raijin? I was eager to try it out, especially to try out the special effect on the spot. You can imagine that there's a super strong Raijin crouching nearby. The neighborhood might also be a hidden dragon in the Crouching Valley. If there's any commotion, the whole place might explode instantly. It's better to study it first. Reiji Kurogane and Aoi Shirasaki quickly arrived at other floors. With the overall organizational layout, there were no truly ordinary neighbors left in Sakuragaoka Heights. Everyone living nearby was one of their own. For example, the apartment where Reiji Kurogane is currently staying is a dedicated monitoring base for electronic devices. The relevant technical staff won't stay at Kasumigaseki headquarters for long periods, but will conduct remote analysis and monitoring here. The National Anomaly Countermeasures Bureau effectively moved nearly half its Kasumigaseki headquarters directly to this residential complex. Almost every resident here is an ability user. Even when on a last-minute mission, they treat this place as the starting point for their actions, which shows just how much they value it. Reishi Kurogane's gaze fell on the staff member in front of the surveillance footage, and he asked in a low voice what was going on. After getting the phone, Biao only downloaded a few commonly used apps, and now he's quietly streaming videos on video apps. Reiji Kurogane sweated lightly and instructed that he analyze his preferences and personality based on the content he browsed, not missing any detail. He understood that the surveillance device screen was showing only the phone's live footage, with a popular anime drama playing on it. There was still one mistaken guess. There were no surveillance cameras or bugs installed in the room. Only one was symbolically installed in the living room, considering long-term impact. Come on, does this kid like watching cartoons? Aoi Shirasaki subtly stared at the screen with a subtle expression. I wondered if this was the ACG, anime, comic, and comic, trend among young people lately. The staff casually responded, probably because I'm a relative and a child who like this kind of thing. Unfortunately, I can't see the target's facial expressions now. Otherwise, I could further analyze the preference weight. Aoi Shirasaki shook her head gently, convinced that this was the only way he could go. If he went any deeper, it would turn into a series of time bombs. The decision-makers within the organization still wanted to monitor my every move 24/7, but during subsequent voting, this proposal was directly rejected. This includes the key to the prediction cast by the prophet who foresaw heavy losses. The prophecies given by the voters basically cannot change the outcome. Even if you know the future in advance and investigate the reasons behind it, trying every possible way to disrupt the entire process, things will still lead to the predetermined outcome due to various twists of fate. In other words, Even if you already know I will destroy the world in the future, no matter how hard the Countermeasures Bureau tries to stop it, it still cannot reverse the final outcome. The tragedies that had occurred were still vivid in my mind. Some tried to prevent tragedy by killing their target, but the target was the an unstable and unpredictable target type. Killing the Countermeasures Bureau only accelerated the onset of tragedy, like a life with nowhere to escape. The country is still like this today. The intervention of the Countermeasures Bureau in every move I make is likely the key from cause to effect. Any plan that seems even a bit radical could invisibly accelerate the pace of world-ending. Who can be sure that the fuse for the ultimate destruction of the world by the Countermeasures Bureau is not the Countermeasures Bureau's excessive invasion of personal privacy? Installing surveillance cameras in the room was already outrageous. Once he detected it, it was like detonating a bomb in advance. As for monitoring phone data privacy, they can still use all sorts of grandiose excuses to brush it off. Aoi Shirasaki's gaze fell on Reiji Kurogane, who remained calm throughout. Half joking, half serious, Reiji Kurogane thought about whether to study what this kid liked, so at least they could have some common topics to talk about when they met. Reiji Kurogane just shook his head lightly. "You can handle these detailed matters?" Aoi Shirasaki felt a bit troubled and couldn't help but complain that, as Haruto's mother, she couldn't keep talking to him about me forever. Reiji Kurogane, who always paid attention, slowly shifted his gaze away from the animation on the screen. His tone remained calm, and don't forget that he has always been one of the most dangerous ability users. Aoi Shirasaki caught the implication behind Reiji Kurogane's words, her expression shifting slightly, a reminder not to let the overwhelming maternal love take over his mind. No matter how harmless he appeared on the surface, he was still a potential source of danger. The government has no idea I have eyes that can see through everything. Not only can you see everyone's information, but you can also predict each other's actions and thoughts. When the government prevented me from being contemptuous, 2 big shots came to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me. I immediately sensed something was wrong. I understood. Reiji Kurogane's tone paused slightly, then he didn't say another word. But you can treat him however you like, even if you just treat him like an ordinary child and forget he's dangerous. It doesn't matter. Aoi Shirasaki looked up and gave him the same look. No matter the outcome, I will cover for you. Reiji Kurogane remained calm, as if stating an ordinary fact. No one present doubted this statement. If Aoi Shirasaki was sent to approach me because she has the kind of temperament that makes people naturally call her Mom, Reiji Kurogane is just a supporting figure. He doesn't need to play the role of a father at all. He only needed to be strong enough to handle any sudden incident on his own, as long as his power was excessively powerful, can easily cover up all other flaws, and no one can match Reiji Kurogane. Her statement made Aoi Shirasaki breathe a long sigh of relief. Since Reiji Kurogane had made such a promise, she could spoil that child without hesitation. At that moment, Reiji Kurogane's gaze suddenly tightened. His sharp gaze froze, fixed on the room where I was. Immediately after, the voices of the staff finally arrived, carrying a hint of uncontrollable excitement, reporting that the target of the mental power fluctuation was suspected to be an awakened heterodox sect. On the rooftop 100 meters away, a skinny boy appeared out of thin air. The main body was AFK and sleeping in the room, but the clone immediately activated a dimensionality reduction attack. Data fission accompanied by a cough sound. Haruto Manase's aura surged wildly, its power directly crushing several previous tiers of elites. Divine Power 100, Strength 25, Stamina 25, Agility 25. This is an exponentially terrifying level. Stats increased tenfold, critical hit. What more could you ask for? Although it lasted less than 5 minutes, it was definitely an invincible, decisive skill. Immediately after, Haruto Manase focused his mind and a rolling black mist instantly enveloped his entire body. Even his height and face were completely blurred. I dragged away one mysterious behind-the-scenes shadowy hand after another. The leap in quantity made his confidence soar, and just when he thought he could slack off freely, an unexpected event occurred. A sigh suddenly drifted from behind, and Haruto Manase's body abruptly lowered. His emotions surged as if he were falling into an ice cellar, stiffly turning around. Only then did he realize that Reiji Kurogane had somehow already stood behind him, guarding this true numerical observation in Sakuragaoka Heights. He stared intently at the black mist, his gaze icy cold. If it weren't for the leak of a trace of spiritual power just now, he wouldn't have sensed the opponent's presence at all. Hearing this question, Haruto Manase secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Even the strongest modern power, with spiritual power over 10,000, couldn't see through the system's divine power shielding. He had planned to simply cancel his ability and escape the plan, but unexpectedly, the Patchwork Home system popped up a notification at this critical moment. Detecting the target character's indifferent father, he needs an opportunity to increase his attention to his son and provoke him into completing the task to reward 2 attribute points. Right now, he's starting to start taunting him. Will the strongest ability user of the modern era really win? For those tempting attribute points, Haruto Manase gritted his teeth and fought hard. Under Reiji Kurogane's cold gaze, a hand slowly reached out from the black mist. He immediately made an arrogant, friendly gesture for fighting fruit. Reiji Kurogane wasn't angry at all. Someone as powerful as him would only be puzzled by such a weak and ambiguous provocation. Now it was Haruto Manase's turn to panic. If he comes, he must strike fiercely. He deliberately lowered his voice, and a gloomy question came from within the black mist. Column 001. Here, no dialogue is spoken to each other. As soon as the voice dropped, the air on the rooftop was dead, and a gentle breeze swept by. Reiji Kurogane expressionlessly pulled out his phone and dialed a number. What was the current situation with the target? On one side, Aoi Shirasaki instantly sensed something was wrong and rushed to Haruto Minase's gate. Pushing open the door, the white-haired kid was quietly sleeping on the bed, breathing steadily without any abnormalities. After falling asleep, Reiji Kurogane heard the report on the phone and hung up immediately. He immediately stared intently at the figure in the black mist before him. Unabashedly, his killing intent erupted, and he answered me. Why are you looking for sequence 001? At this moment, Haruto Manase was already pinned in place by a terrifying aura, as if a sharp star cannon had precisely locked onto him. Unexpectedly, this provocation went too far and didn't even get him to speak. Reiji Kurogane reached out and tore off the scarf around his neck. The wind suddenly swept through, and the soft scarf instantly stretched into a tight bundle, invisible and sharp. Just staring at him feels like he's about to have his throat slit. Forget it. Killing you here won't change the outcome. The next second, Reiji Kurogane suddenly swung his scarf, and the roar of the Jade Dragon echoed loudly, the terrifying air currents crashing down like a super typhoon. In the blink of an eye, only Reiji Kurogane's figure as he turned and left was left on the rooftop. Even the once gloomy night sky was forcibly split apart by this strike, transforming into a star-filled realm. I don't know if I have eyes that see through everything. I can not only see everyone's information, but also anticipate their actions and thoughts. So when the government tries to prevent me from being destroyed, the government faction, 2 big shots, came to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me. I immediately sensed something was wrong. At the same time, Haruto Manase in the room suddenly opened his eyes. It didn't hurt, he gasped heavily, frantically steadying his heartbeat. If a fission is instantly killed, it won't feed back to the main body. But the oppressive feeling of watching a big truck crash into you was enough to make you die instantly. Only then did the system's prompt sound finally arrive, and the sequence 001 was top secret. Reiji Kurogane suspected that the mole's leak would surely destroy all suspicious individuals. So that's how it is. No wonder this strongest ability user of the modern era just followed the trend. Immediately after, the provocation succeeded and earned a couple of attribute points as a reward. Seeing the numbers on the panel, Haruto Manase couldn't help but roll his eyes. Aoi Shirasaki's mom had already given 5 points, but this old Reiji was actually locked down to just 2 points. The compensation for emotional damage he earned at the cost of his life was only this much. Tomorrow he had to find an excuse to severely repay his vital energy. Just as Haruto Manase was quietly weighing his options, Aoi's gentle voice came from outside the door. Haruto Manase took a shower and was about to sleep. Knowing this, Haruto Manase pushed open the door, but suddenly stopped in his tracks, his eyes widening instantly. Suddenly, he realized a very dangerous problem. This was his first time bathing with this body. He thought about it. In his previous life, he hadn't even touched a boy's hand. Now, she actually had to personally wash a boy's body, even her own body. This was just too thrilling. Seeing Haruto Manase standing there stunned and his face flushed red, Aoi Shirasaki couldn't help but curl her lips. "Can't you wash it yourself? Do you want Mom to help you?" Haruto Manase suddenly hit hard when he heard this, shaking his head like a wavy cloth. No need for a fighting joke. Adding a stunning beauty bathing together is absolutely the ultimate torment. Without hesitation, he turned around and hurriedly dove into the bathroom door. Aoi Shirasaki's face was full of the satisfaction of having a son. Inside the door, Haruto Manase looked at the luxurious large bathtub before him, and a bold idea suddenly popped into his mind. He had the ability to fission. If he split off into another version of himself, he would wipe it out himself. Wouldn't it be amazing to have a strange little basin later? Moreover, as long as there is no data viral effect, there will be no exposure of the aura. Here, you can do whatever you want. Just as Haruto Manase was eager to try, Aoi Shirasaki's gentle voice suddenly sounded outside the door. Haruto Manase's change of clothes is left at the door, which is very cute for pajamas. This sudden shout nearly made Haruto Manase become a standing committee member. He patted his chest and stammered, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Aoi Shirasaki refused to give up, a smile curling at the corner of her mouth. Does he really not need his mother's help? There was absolutely no need for Haruto Manase to refuse without hesitation. If he really let this woman in, how could he show off his perfect little clever tricks? Seeing Haruto Manase's resolute attitude, he could only leave with regret. Then he turned and walked downstairs to a hidden room. Pushing open the door, Reiji Kurogane and several top ability users had been waiting for quite some time. The large screen in the living room was densely lit up with video calls from the Countermeasures Bureau's decision-making team. Aoi Shirasaki was still and asked what had just happened. Reiji Kurogane's eyes were icy cold. Someone silently approached, mentioning Sequence 001. A grave voice immediately came from the screen. There was an insider at Kasumi Giseki headquarters, and the information had already leaked. We absolutely could not let the power of contempt fall into the hands of evil. Faced with a crisis that could shake half the government, Reiji Kurogane simply said coldly, "I won't let that happen." Everyone fell silent instantly. After all, even if a meteorite fell from the sky, this strongest ability user of the modern era could still force its eyes to fall. Seeing the crisis come up and the end of the crisis, Aoi Shirasaki suddenly changed the subject. That kid had very little desire to communicate with me, and when he faced us, it was more like dealing with an adult. As soon as these words were spoken, this group of single young women who only appeared in the motherland gathered in the online meeting room, gasping in shock. After a brief silence, someone had a sudden idea. Since she ignored the adults, she arranged for peers to come to her side. The conditions were instantly listed. Men of the same age knew the inside story, and those with mature personalities had extremely strict conditions for superpowered individuals within the system. Yet Kasumi Giseki headquarters really had such a figure, and as soon as the words were made, the little genius, known as the Hoshi, was sent to the spot. At the same time, Haruto Manase, completely unaware, was walking out of the bathroom feeling refreshed. Picking up the pajamas outside, she saw the little dinosaur one-piece pajamas. These were just too childish. The silky, skin-cling, exquisite sensation, as soon as she put it on, instantly won her over. Wearing this to sleep was absolutely comfortable. In less than a second, Haruto Manase directly revealed the truth to her. He strolled into the living room and found Reiji Kurogane and Aoi Shirasaki were both gone, so he couldn't be bothered to linger and turned back to his room. After all, just now in the bathroom, she had comfortably directed the mutant to dry her hair until it was half dry. The hair had just been wiped off half a dry Haruto Manase night owl and couldn't hold back anymore. The country doesn't know if I have eyes that see through everything. I can not only see everyone's information, but also anticipate their actions and thoughts. So when the government tries to stop me from showing contempt, when two big shots came to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me, I immediately sensed that something was wrong. In my previous life, after staying up late and becoming a boy, how could I possibly sleep soundly and sleep early? Going out will definitely get madly nagged by Aoi Shirasaki. However, her eyes flickered, instantly reminding her of the fission in her heart. Just place the clone Kiao Kiao's head outside the white rice on the back, and the main body lies on the bed and falls into a deep sleep. Even immortals couldn't find any flaws. Then she decisively stripped off the little dinosaur pajamas. The white-haired kid wearing this messy hair in the middle of the night was basically begging someone else to manage it. After the cabinet is overturned, a set of dark curtain hood jackets is directly put on the hood and pulled. His snow-white stray hair was covered tightly, so no one could tell he was a boy. A faint light flashed across the path, several hundred meters away from Sakuragaoka Heights, and a small figure appeared out of thin air. Haruto Minase smugly stood with his hands on his hips, looking very proud, as if he wanted to monitor me. To prevent her location from being exposed, she even ruthlessly left her phone in her room. There was only an hour of outing, but when she leisurely strolled to the nearby Midori Park, the surroundings were eerily silent. No grand dance scenes, no aunties or grandpas, just a few broken streetlights emitting a lonely pale glow so near this special neighborhood, even the air was silent. Haruto Manase couldn't help but rub his arms, goosebumps breaking out. It was best to retreat quickly. Yet, in the darkness ahead of this world, a strange figure suddenly stepped out, blocking the path tightly. Haruto Manase's heart tightened tightly. Within one day, he was scared twice. The visitor was not Reiji Kurogane, but a tall and unfamiliar woman. The other party also wore a black hood, most of her body hidden in the shadows, and a chilling aura swept over her. Intuition and crazy warning. This is definitely a hostile wild esper. Seeing things were going badly, Haruto Manase decisively turned and left. His cold, piercing voice coiled around the back of his neck like a venomous snake. Haruto Manase stopped. His whole body stiffened and he turned around, forcing out an extremely innocent expression. "Big sister, what do you want me to do?" "I want to go home and sleep." The woman ignored him and slowly raised her fingertip, sharp as a blade, pointing straight at the nearby brain. That was the key defense complex where Haruto Manase's main body was. "You are. Did you come out of that building?" Haruto Manase's eyes were clear as he tossed out the two words, "No," without changing his expression. His answer was so calm, his mental resilience far surpassed his peers, and he really came from the Countermeasures Bureau. Listening to the woman's one-sided imagination, Haruto Manase broke out in a sweat on the spot, doubling down. How could this be resolved? Then, the mysterious figure began to ask from a condescending stance, asking if the Countermeasures Bureau had discovered a new ability user during this major stir. Haruto Manase blinked and said nothing. The woman actually started this crazy self-talking mode, and I heard it's a top-ranked sequence that requires a large mobilization and guard. Right in that building, right? I can sense that deadly aura. It definitely requires top-tier combat power for protection. Haruto Manase's expression was extremely strange. "If it's not Big Sister, who are you?" "I didn't respond at all, and you act like a single speaker." What can I say? After all that, who exactly are you? She couldn't hold back and interrupted her trial. The woman let out a disdainful sneer. "I was certified by the opposing bureau as Sequence 0. The 12th Bureau should have my wanted posters covered in my dungeons." Thinking that breaking one's name would shock the whole crowd, Haruto Manase looked completely confused. Is 012 really that impressive? The air instantly fell silent, and the woman fell into deep self-doubt. But Haruto Manase's nature was completely ignited. After all, this body was just a fission, so if he died, he could do whatever he wanted. The person before him was a living, officially certified Level 1 expert, aside from himself. Although it couldn't compare to his explosive Sequence 001, it was still enough to extract internal intelligence. Her eyes lit up as she threw out a deeply piercing question. So, who is stronger, you or Reiji Kurogane? A faint trace of bloodthirsty, murderous intent lingered in the air. The woman was speechless again, even wanting to turn and leave. "Aren't you afraid?" My woman stared at her intently. Since she knew Reiji Kurogane's name, she must be an insider from the Countermeasures Bureau. There was no way she didn't know a Sequence 1 expert. The essence, Haruto Manase secretly laughed to himself. What the heck was the Countermeasures Bureau afraid of? They played house with her every day, and the intelligence blockade was tight. Today, they had to pry some useful information out of this outlaw's mouth. She was pretending to be a thief, lowering her voice like a thief, and secretly telling you a secret. Actually, I'm also a Sequence 1 expert. The woman's lips curled into a cold, dreamy smile. Haruto Manase is getting anxious, you don't believe me. I originally had Sequence 514, and I just upgraded to 11 and 4. The rise gap is huge. However, with a cold remark from the woman, the Countermeasures Bureau could only have 100 newcomers take the lead, pushing the old ones out. Haruto Manase immediately confessed, as if he could dig 31 with his toes, and if he heard it was fine, he'd just think I was talking nonsense. The government has no idea. I have eyes that can see through everything. Not only can you see everyone's information, but you can also predict each other's actions and thoughts. When the government prevented me from being contemptuous, 2 big shots came to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me. I sensed something was off at first glance. A cold-faced uncle hovered in the air. Suisei scratched his head. "Oh, you're you. Who was it again?" Staring at Sora Amamiya in front of him, Reiji Kurogane completely ignored his big flash. His sharp gaze quickly swept across the empty streets, making sure there was no second figure. After confirming there was no one else, his voice turned icy cold. What exactly had just happened here? Hearing the uncle's questioning, Sora Amamiya puffed out his chest confidently. "Just now, I carried out justice and succeeded, scaring an innocent passerby with a dark smile. No need to praise me. This is the duty of the magical boy Suisei." However, Reiji Kurogane in midair couldn't even smile. Thinking about the news about Sequence 001, the news that might have attracted a lawless madman made his mood instantly sink. Someone as strong as he was, after all, was not omniscient or omnipotent. There are countless strange abilities in this world. A single misstep could lead to failure. Reiji Kurogane coldly glanced at the questioned child below. "Don't wander around late at night." As soon as he said this, Suise's cheeks instantly puffed up like a bun. How could this be called blind wandering? This was clearly magical magic. As a young man, he secretly guarded Yokohama and saved people, but it was a real attack. How could he be treated like a child? Reiji Kurogane didn't even want to hear a single word of excuse and turned around, disappearing into the night. Only Suisei was left behind, standing in place, so angry he was so furious he was hoarse, daring to underestimate me. Just wait and see, I will make the name of the magical boy Suisei resound throughout the world. At the same time, Haruto Manase had already slipped back into his room on the Countermeasures Bureau. He hugged the blanket tightly and started ranting wildly, saying that these ability users were secretly forming an organization, and just so they were targeting me, he had originally just wanted to rely on government support and live a peaceful life, but unexpectedly, he was caught up in such deadly troubles every day. It seemed that slacking off with a clear conscience was impossible. Immediately, something flashed through Haruto Manase's mind. The fortune teller from the Countermeasures Bureau said he would destroy the world in the future, a shocking blow that was truly world-shaking. I haven't even made a proper pursuit, so I haven't messed with any world. This shows that the prophet is just talking nonsense, and the Countermeasures Bureau should have nagged him long ago. But then he thought, if it didn't work, he really wouldn't feel safe. I have to rely on this system to quickly control profits. If the world really ends, where would I slack off? But the patchwork home system he was bound to was a top-notch waste. Even posting attribute points was stingy. This efficiency wouldn't even outlast 3 pages in online literature. You can only farm attribute points by relying on family. Where else can I find so many family members? I can't just shout randomly like some perverts. Thinking of this, Haruto Minase shook his head irritably, his thoughts drifting back to the battle he had just went. That blue-haired boy who had dropped out of the sky was unforgettable. He had actually brought the kind of over-the-top magical boy character I'd only ever seen in anime into real life. I'd watched plenty of shows like that in my previous life, but those characters were supposed to stay on paper. But those are all paper figures. How could they be real in real life? Emerged. Peace. After the 3-star end, my hair dried and I went to sleep. On the morning of the 4th, Haruto Minase walked out of the bedroom with hair messy, like a chicken coop. The next second, his steps suddenly stopped. On the living room sofa sat a mysterious old Reiji king, reading a newspaper, developing the divine dragon blade, the strongest modern ability user with an unstoppable technique, and he was actually staking out the living room himself. Could it be that his sneaking out last night had made him alert? Being stared at by this regime, Haruto Minase suddenly felt a mountain of pressure, and a trace of fear began to rise in his heart. But suddenly he realized, what was there to fear? He was now the key target of the Countermeasures Bureau's little ancestor, the strongest ability user. In front of him, he had to obediently pretend to be an ordinary old father. This was a golden opportunity, so why not unleash a wave of old Reiji's gold coins? How could he be worthy of it? In an instant, Haruto Minase's gaze became resolute as he casually walked over. Sensing the commotion, Reiji Kurogane slowly put down the newspaper and looked over at what was happening. Haruto Minase cleared his throat and said, I want a computer. I thought the other party would question me a bit. But Reiji Kurogane didn't even blink. Sure, I'll find friends to help you prepare. Haruto Minase's eyes widened slightly. Getting gold coins went so smoothly. Now his courage was completely gone, and he decided to keep testing the graphics card at 50 or 90. Are there any other requests? The display should be a 34-inch ultra-wide display. That's all. There's also Haruto Minase. The more excited I get, the more I talk, the more excited I want an all-white Sea-View suitcase. All the specs are maxed out for me. Faced with such outrageous demands, Reiji Kurogane's voice remained calm and unmoving. I'll have someone prepare this afternoon. These ordinary 8 words sounded like heavenly music to Haruto Minase's ears. No, this is the nominal old father. How could he make the old Haruto Minase so excited he almost took off on the spot? But the top-tier machines he never dreamed of buying in his previous life, today he had all of them all at once. It was so satisfying it made his spirit tingle. Before passing through, it seems like the last piece of the puzzle is still missing from a perfect life of idleness. I don't know if I have eyes that see through everything. I can not only see everyone's information, but also anticipate their actions and thoughts. So when the government tries to stop me from showing contempt, when 2 big shots came to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me, I immediately sensed that something was wrong. Haruto Minase rubbed his hands together, his eyes shining as he stared at Reiji Kurogane. I also want some pocket money to buy games. Crazy online gaming spending, this is the soul of the top-tier slacking off lifestyle. Without pocket money to use freely, this slacking off lifestyle is simply soulless. Reiji Kurogane raised his eyelids slightly, wanting as much as he wanted. Haruto Minase bluntly blurted out, "How much can you give?" Yet this question left the strongest ability user completely silent. Reiji Kurogane pondered for a moment and promised, "I'll give you half a dedicated bank card. If you don't have enough money, come back to me for more." "Thank you," Haruto Minase was overjoyed inside. At that moment, he secretly swore a poisonous oath. Even if other sequence organizations offered sky-high prices to poach him, he would cling tightly to the golden leg of the Countermeasures Bureau, no matter what. Then Haruto Minase hummed a tune and slipped into the bathroom. At the same time, Reiji Kurogane turned and walked toward the balcony, dialing a secret number. He attached the ridiculous computer setup he had just installed. On the other end of the line, he gasped sharply. What kind of godlike setup is this? Is that kid planning to die in his room for the rest of his life and never go out? That person's tone was extremely exaggerated. Give me the key to this all-white sea view room, and I'll stay here forever. Reiji Kurogane frowned slightly and interrupted directly, saying, "Enough talk, I'll be ready soon this afternoon." The other person was clearly a bit of a sketcher. I couldn't stop it all, okay, but a normal guy wouldn't understand these hardcore things. I seriously suspect he's on the same level as me. HMPH. Maybe I could run into him online and add him as a friend. That might be interesting. Reiji Kurogane's eyes immediately turned cold. Don't do anything foolish. Before the other man could continue, Reiji ended the call. After Haruto Manase finished washing up and stepped out of the bathroom, the dining table was already set with a steaming hot breakfast. But Aoi Shirasaki was nowhere to be seen. Now this lousy system refuses to send tasks, and even the top-tier computer he's been thinking about won't arrive until the afternoon. During this downtime, he needs to do something. Haruto Manase stroked his chin, and a bold idea suddenly popped into his mind. I want to go out. Since he was going to stay here long-term, he had to figure out the tolerance and bottom line of the Countermeasures Bureau and the scope of social interactions. Today, he had to probe thoroughly. However, when he told Reiji Kurogane about this plan, the outcome was completely unexpected. The other party not only showed no objection, but didn't even pay attention to getting up. Safety, if anything came up, they could call at any time. Haruto Manase was secretly alarmed. Hearing old Reiji's calm tone, it seemed he had no intention of secretly following and protecting him. There was definitely a lot of Zhang Wenzhang involved in this. Haruto Manase pushed open the door and found the corridor empty. Reiji Kurogane didn't come along, yet he didn't restrict his personal freedom. This was completely different from what the ability user said yesterday. He went downstairs to check on Haruto Manase and muttered as he got into the elevator. Immediately after, the elevator stopped on the first floor and a beautiful woman with wavy long hair walked in. The most dangerous thing was the astonishing front-mounted chest armor, which could make any old pervert stunned. But Haruto Manase had only one thought: I only like skinny ones. However, the eldest sister was naturally sociable, unfamiliar with the newcomer. Haruto Minase's heart skipped a beat, and he could only nod timidly the next day. Unexpectedly, the big sister was even more enthusiastic. I'm your neighbor on the 10th floor. Drop by when you have time, just eat whatever you want. Damn, she doesn't even act anymore. Is this Snow White's stepmother? Haruto Manase kept complaining, almost thinking his little boy was about to be abducted. All right, I need to ask my parents first. Haruto Manase should quickly find an excuse. But the eldest sister wouldn't let it go. Maybe I know you and I'll visit you in person. 110-1. It seems that family doesn't have a son. The topic was still going to continue. Fortunately, the elevator chimed and we arrived on the first floor. Haruto Manase let out a long breath, almost as if he were already a senior. My sister smiled apologetically, but when she met the cute little boy, she couldn't resist coming by another day to apologize and say goodbye. Watching him walk away, Haruto Manase finally relaxed. It was terrifying. This was definitely a pretending accidental encounter with a member of the Countermeasures Bureau. Strangely, he really didn't keep up. Could it be that he didn't restrict his activities? After that, Haruto Manase walked and stopped along the way, and before he knew it, he had arrived at the same Midori Park from last night. When I was about to slack off, I played chess, and a frustrated voice drifted into my ears. Sigh, got scolded again. I was just a magical boy, doing good deeds. Isn't that voice the same as last night? I looked toward the sound and saw a little boy wearing black-rimmed glasses sitting alone by the fountain. Although my hair color and temperament are off, I'm sure he's the magical boy from last night. Now it's interesting. Just as I was worrying about having no fun with toys delivered to me, I was hesitating whether to go up and talk. Suddenly, a voice echoed in his mind. The country doesn't know if I have eyes that see through everything. I can not only see everyone's information, but also anticipate their actions and thoughts. So when the government tries to stop me from showing contempt, two big shots, came to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me. I immediately sensed something was wrong. Detected family members, please ask the host to decide whether to establish a family relationship with them. What family members are coming to you? Don't waste your attribute points, don't waste them. This time, you have to win me over. Immediately, she sneaked around and found the back of the boy's buttocks, slowly shifting her hips closer. Bit by bit, he was just 2 feet away, and he hadn't even noticed me. How low my vigilance. I cleared my throat and immediately unleashed the magical boy. The boy instantly flapped at the startled rabbit. Fluffy smack! Whoa, I'm not an idiot, Suisei. I'm Sora Amamiya, you mistook me for someone else. This is basically self-admitting. I never mentioned the word Suisei. He calmed down before I continued to press him. But to his surprise, he looked aggrieved and quietly asked, How did you know? I never told ordinary people. He didn't recognize me at all as the person he saved last night. I wasn't going to admit it so quickly, at least make sure he became a family member recognized by the system. So I confidently said, Hujo, I just heard you talking about being a magical boy. Sora Amamiya's eyes widened instantly, wearing an expression as if his life was over. It was actually this kind of mistake. My magical boy's life ended. While he was feeling overwhelmed, I immediately pulled out my phone and searched for the magical boy Suisei. I actually found a delicate photo. It seems the government's secrecy about supernatural abilities isn't perfect. Deciding to add another blow, you probably aren't the real magical boy. A real magical boy has cognitive magic to hide his identity. Sora Amamiya's heart felt as if it had shattered with a crack, and he couldn't argue back. Because his power was indeed just that of an alien, he had no fundamental knowledge of magic or magic. You're right, but I'm not telling the truth. His frustrated voice almost made me want to find a corner to draw circles. Is there any magical boy who has failed more than this? Whose identity is exposed by an ordinary person? I quickly comforted the people who had booked this home, telling them not to be discouraged or discouraged. Show your strength against the villains. Show your courage against the villains. But he shook his head directly, saying he couldn't do it. Only by becoming a magical boy could I show confidence. Normally, I was ordinary and weak. He gave a self-mocking smile, doing good deeds, getting scolded, and even having your identity discovered. I've completely failed. Wow, the two-faced king, huh? The contrast is huge. To keep this delicate family member in check, I decided to make a bold move. Who told you I'm just an ordinary person? As soon as he said this, Sora Amamiya suddenly looked up, his eyes full of surprise. Is it possible that you and I are the same kind? His eyes lit up instantly. Are you a magical boy too? Bah, pa, puni, you're the magical boy me. Deliberately lowering my voice, keeping my face shut. Mysterious, I'm an ability user, please don't tell anyone. I only said it because you're the same kind. You're the first to know, but I've never told anyone. Sora Amamiya's gaze was a bit skeptical, but he didn't ask me to prove it. I guess that's a kind of comfort. He finally breathed a sigh of relief. Since that's the case, I can rest easy. Good. The emotions have stabilized. It's time to start extracting information. The official channels can't get any information, so from Sora Amamiya, who seems easy to deceive, there should be no problem. He was about to deceive the delicate little guy's conscience, and then decisively spoke up. Since you're a magical boy, could you do me a favor? He immediately stammered, but I'm not a magical boy right now. I immediately interrupted him, looking heartbroken and anguished. The magical boy is not so inconvenient. Have you ever seen any anime male lead ignore those in need without transforming? It didn't seem like Sora Amamiya's case. Thinking about it, it really was true. Haruto Minase's expression was like a mentor's. That's right, your purity isn't quite enough. Sora Amamiya still wanted to protect Yokohama. He was too inexperienced. I actually felt that what I said made sense, and my inner guard instantly collapsed. Whatever you need me to do, I'll do my best to help you. Once I took the bait, I immediately put on an expectant expression. It's actually very simple. I want to become as powerful as you, but I don't know how to tap into supernatural abilities. Can you teach me? Is it really that simple? Sora Amamiya completely relaxed. Fortunately, This was something he could do, but that should be fine. With my expectant gaze, he seemed to experience the joy of helping others without transforming. Then I'll say it. Listen attentively. Sora Amamaya took a deep breath and began to teach. Psychics rely on their powers to fight and become stronger. They must make their powers stronger. There's a straightforward saying in the system. The battle for superpowered users is a battle of mental power. The stronger the mental power, the stronger the superpower. So that's all the reason. No wonder Reiji Kurogane's mental power value was so extreme. That's true violent output. I quickly focused on the key point. How can I effectively improve my mental strength? Sora Amamiya slowly revealed that there are 3 common ways to advance core secrets. The country doesn't know if I have eyes that see through everything. He could only see everyone's information and predict their actions and thoughts. When the government prevented me from being contemptuous, 2 big shots came to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me. I immediately sensed something was wrong. First, use special facilities for targeted exercise. Second, through combat, unlock potential. The third enlightenment enhancement looks like this. Can you understand? After Sora Amamiya spoke, he carefully asked questions, afraid I wouldn't understand. The child is so kind-hearted. I nodded thoughtfully. So that's how it is. It's easy to understand, but none of the ways are simple. Targeted training sounds exhausting and torturous just by hearing it. Combat stimulates potential, not only exhausting itself, but also risking life. As for that enlightenment-type advancement, it was the most profound of metaphysics. This is totally not suitable for someone like me who slacks off. It seems my system feels the most like tough workouts. It's not as comfortable as just adding points directly. Sora Amamaya saw me deep in thought, thinking I was troubled by how to get stronger, and he actually spoke up first. Actually, I know of an official channel where I can refer you to register. If they think your ability is worth cultivating, they'll provide you with the corresponding resources. I quickly refused with my hands down. No need for that. I still prefer the feeling of getting stronger just lying down. What a joke! I'm just a lazy slacker. If I can rely on a system, why torture myself? Even if the government feeds cultivation resources right to my lips, I, Haruto Minase, absolutely won't take it. Sora Amamaya was completely dumbfounded. Didn't you say you wanted to get stronger? I replied confidently. If getting stronger conflicts with slacking off, I still think it's better not to get stronger. Sora Amamiya was completely speechless. The way he looked at me was like looking at some strange creature. He was clearly so delicate and had the bearing of a magical boy, but inside he was like a lazy slacker. I can't help but whisper that this will make me useless. Hey, don't worry about these details. I'll immediately change the subject. By the way, how strong are you? What level do you make among ability users? Sora Amamiya suddenly felt a bit embarrassed. My mental power was only at sea level, not that strong. Sea level, I tilted my head. What kind of rating method is this? Sounds like a new grading system. Sora Amamiya had no choice but to continue explaining to me, a newbie, that my organization has facilities that can detect mental power and digitize it. My mental power is currently 1 in 12, just stepping into sea level 112 sea level. I instinctively glanced at the shocking thing on my own panel. Instantly realized, wow, turns out I'm a little hidden in the ground. This boy in front of me was actually 10 times stronger than me, and a sense of shame surged through me. But then, thinking about my post-viral stats instantly relaxed my mood. If not, you have to squeeze it dry. Then tell me about other levels. I'm fine. Sora Amamiya, overwhelmed by my questions, had no choice but continue explaining. Don't worry, I'll tell you everything slowly. It was the first time he had helped someone without using his magical boy identity. This introverted little guy usually runs away from trouble first, then secretly transforms into a magical boy to solve problems. Today, I was pestering me relentlessly, and I didn't even get a chance to transform. At that moment, I suddenly noticed a key issue. Wait, tell me if these will affect me. Watching him suddenly ask about being punished for leaking secrets, Sora Amamiya scratched his head and gently shook it. This was the most basic information. If we encountered folk espers, we would recommend them with popular science knowledge, so they wouldn't be punished to listen. Only after hearing these words did I feel relieved. If you punish me for this, I will feel bad about it. Sora Amamiya was instantly moved. Thank you for thinking of me. This kid usually runs away when facing problems, and when interacting with people, he's like a fish in a corner. He doesn't even run to pee. After becoming a magical boy, he was treated as a problem child, and even adults found him troublesome, so no one had deep conversations with him. Fruit now, this strange person makes him feel an unprecedented level of care, and he is deeply moved. Don't worry, I'll tell you everything I know. I hope it can help you. Sora Amamiya suddenly burst with unprecedented enthusiasm. For the first time, he shows the magical energy of a boy in everyday life. So energetic! I immediately praised him, saying he really looks like a magical boy this time. This kind of insecure little boy needs praise the most, and it's incredibly easy to handle me. Then Sora Amamiya began to explain in detail. There are 5 ranks of superpowered users. For someone like you, who have just awakened your spiritual power, it's usually just over 10, the start of D rank, and so on. You only reach C level when your mental power breaks 100. I'm currently at this stage. Oh, that's interesting, I nodded thoughtfully. Today, I finally know where the bottleneck is. The government has no idea. I have eyes that can see through everything. Not only can you see everyone's information, but you can also predict each other's actions and thoughts. When the government prevented me from being contemptuous, 2 big shots came to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me. I immediately sensed something was wrong. Sora Amamiya stared at me blankly, unable to help but murmur to herself, feeling that Haruto Minase girls are more suited to being magical boys. No, I quickly shook my head and frantically refused. The magical boy was too tired, and the high-risk job was a bit scary. But Sora Amamiya thought it over seriously, then said something that hit the heart deeply. Indeed, Haruto Minase looks so weak, so he might easily be defeated and taken away. My heart was so shattered by the iron face, forced to look so small, so much so that my self-esteem suffered a huge blow. If you can slander me like this, I must have a promising future, okay? Sora Amamiya shrank his neck and weakly retorted, "Isn't Haruto Minase supposed to like slacking off? People who only know how to slack off have no future." HMPH, I'm not the same, but I'm too lazy to explain and keep changing the subject. Back to the main topic, whether to visit my house or not. This is the first time I've invited a friend over to visit. Sora Amamiya was instantly flattered and felt honored. At that moment, I suddenly thought of one key issue after another. By the way, where do you live? Sora Amamiyali pointed to a visible building not far away, and I lived there. Oh, that's great! The 2 buildings are just 1 kilometer apart. This is truly a heaven-sent fate, no time to lose. Come with me, Aimi. I immediately took Sora Amamiya's hand. If he was going to become family, I had to take the initiative. But how can someone who can become family let us go? Let's have a good conversation and tell me if anything interesting happened when you were a magical boy. Sora Amamiya was perfectly fine and didn't resist, letting me take him away. I don't care whether the Countermeasures Bureau has any objections. If I have the guts, the government will send me a wife, or I'll find one myself. At the same time, Reiji Kurogane looked at us from the balcony of the building and spoke to Aoi Shirasaki. He came back with a boy. Aoi Shirasaki's gaze was filled with surprise, wondering if that boy had been arranged in advance. It was not Reiji Kurogane shaking his head at them. If you want to arrange it, only mature and reliable people will be arranged. Sora Amamiya is a notorious problematic child, simply not qualified to be involved with the sequence 001. Since this was my own choice, they decided to turn a blind eye, provided the boy's background and character were sound. I'll step aside you to greet them. As we entered the building, Reiji Kurogane withdrew his gaze and turned to leave. After all, Sora Amamiya had seen him last night. Not long after Reiji Kurogane left, I brought Sora Amamiya home. When we arrived, this was my home. Sora Amamiya looked around curiously. Haruto Minase's home was so big, much bigger than mine. I thought the same way when I first moved in. At that moment, Aoi Shirasaki walked over and returned. "Haruto Minase, is this your new friend?" She said this while sizing up Sora Amamiya. This boy has an impression of the Countermeasures Bureau, notorious for his problems. The children are completely immersed in his art, and even his urban legends circulate online. When danger hits, a boy calling himself the magical boy Sweezy jumps in, causing quite a stir at the time. Sora Amamiya saw Aoi Shirasaki and quickly greeted the auntie. Aoi Shirasaki blinked and smiled slightly, not intending to correct him. Who doesn't like being called a bit younger? It wasn't surprising that Sora Amamiya didn't recognize him. This boy didn't care about anything except the magical boy, so Aoi Shirasaki decided to pretend not to know him. I spoke up at once. "Mom, this is my friend Sora Amamiya. I want to visit his house and play there sometime." Shuang asked briefly, then nodded. "If his family agrees, I have no objections." Although the development of events was unexpected, it was still under control. Aoi Shirasaki seemed very happy to see I had another brother. She patted our heads and said, "You guys play by yourselves first. I'll go prepare fruit and snacks." When the opportunity came, as soon as Aoi Shirasaki left, I immediately grabbed Sora Amamiya and rushed into my room. Sora Amamiya was still curious. Big Cat Haruto Minase's room was so spacious and beautiful, but the next second, with a click, I locked the door behind my back. Sora Amamiya froze on the spot, his head full of questions. I approached him step by step, full of anticipation. My eyes light up, emotions soar, quickly transform into a magical boy. "Give me a look." "That's it." Sora Amamiya instantly breathed a sigh of relief, his tense body relaxing. "I thought so." I stared suspiciously at the unhealthy image of his boy, just thinking. He blushed and quickly shook his head. "No, nothing, I'll argue. After all, we're brothers." "That's more like it." I immediately ran to the balcony and brushed it to draw the curtains. Another snap, turn on the light, and after a smooth combo, "I'm ready to enjoy it, I'm ready." Sora Amamiya felt a bit shy under my gaze. He took a deep breath and began to explain. "My ability is called Suisei's Gift, which is highly malleable." I'm tilting my head. Koko is solemn. What does Ching mean? Well, it's basically that I can let power manifest exactly as I want, and I can transform him however I want. So abstract, I immediately asked, "Then what did you turn him into?" It's basically a transformation similar to a magical boy." Hearing this, I got even more excited. Why wait and see? No matter what you say, why not argue with me? "All right." Sora Amamiya closed his eyes in grievance. "The government has no idea I have eyes that can see through everything. Not only can you see everyone's information, but you can also predict each other's actions and thoughts. When the government prevented me from being contemptuous, 2 big shots came to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me. I immediately sensed something was wrong. The next second, a ball of water blue light appeared out of thin air from his chest. It was a round sphere, radiating an extraordinary aura, its radiance overwhelmingly bright. I instantly realized this ability was no ordinary thing. Immediately, Sora Amamiya's entire body was covered in dazzling light, and his clothes vanished in an instant. I widened my eyes, trying to see the beautiful scenery under the light, but I couldn't see anything. The transformation process was so fast, it was almost like a blink of an eye. Shia's image completely changed. The black-rimmed glasses on his face disappeared. His jet-black short hair turned into sharp blue wisps, completely unnoticed. And he wore a crisp, uniform collar with a stylish tie, giving off a complete 180-degree turn. He opened his gorilla-like eyes and revealed a confident smile. The magical boy Suisei appeared. Clap, clap. I applauded on the spot to fully capture the sense of ceremony as Sora Amamiya transformed and Panruoliang. Before, he was like Kuo-yu in a dark corner, but now he was confident and reopened. I instantly became a little riddle. "Oh my god, Lord Sora Amamiya, But he seriously corrected me. "Just call me Sora Amamiya, but you're too distant. I'm a righteous hero of Qingming." All right, I get this set up, so I drew a nickname. My god, Sora Amamiya the boy. Instantly furious, Sora Amamiya Shota was nothing like that, showing no dignity at all. I replied confidently, "How handsome. That's the nickname fans use for their idol." He was swayed by my words, right? Yes, well, but I can only say this privately. Seeing that he accepted, I started circling around him, tugging at his collar, curious about him later. He didn't mind at all. Instead, he enjoyed being observed by me. A look that looks like it's about to burst with excitement is what makes him cool. After observing it, I nodded in agreement. This really did look exactly like a magical boy. It was unbelievable. Then I asked a key question. What abilities do you have in this form? With a gentle wave of the magic wand in Sora Amamiya's hand, his body overcame gravity and floated up. The most representative examples were flying and the Suize beam. I agree that flying is the standard for magical boy. I saw the Suize beam last night too. Its power is comparable to a small cannonball. I still felt something was missing, so I shook my head. But I was still a bit short of being a genuine magical boy. Hey, what kind of magical boy is Sora Amamiya, who regards the magical boy as a faith? He absolutely cannot tolerate being unauthentic, hitting the nail on the head, missing a mascot similar to Kwubi Mei. As soon as he said this, Sora Amamiya fell silent on the spot. He did not argue. Instead, he waved his magic wand, and a basketball-sized glowing sphere appeared from thin air, floating beside him like a little mascot. Looking at me uncertainly, I thought, does this count? Except for being unable to speak and having no consciousness, it should count as a mascot. I was completely stunned, and this was more and more impressive. I reluctantly admitted defeat and then placed a hand on his shoulder with complete seriousness. Let's just count it roughly. All right, I declare you the authentic magical boy. Haruto Minase firmly defended your legitimacy. Anyone who dares to say you're not me, then squeeze in with them. The words struck a chord with him. Sora Amamiya's eyes trembled. Deeply moved, he suddenly hooked his arm around my neck. Haruto Minase, thank you. You're the first person to support me like this. I felt his buddy-like hug, but he announced a decision. From today on, you are a member of the Magical Boys League. What to do next? Let's discuss together. I was completely confused, and there was even such a setup. It was pointless. As long as I could keep slacking off, that was enough. But the next second, a voice suddenly exploded in my mind. The system's family member came to authenticate it. Sora Amamiya invites you to join the Destiny and become a member of the Magical Boy League. Act together with him and strengthen your relationship, rewarding 5 attribute points. I was instantly startled. I went to Zheng Taipa. The Magic Boys League had actually become a home. Haruto Minase thought he had to acknowledge a younger brother to join. The result was that the family system had been perfected, but it gave him a genius judgment. This system wasn't useless, but a genius system with flexible criteria. If the Magical Boy Alliance counted as family, how many more family members could I collect? The future suddenly looked incredibly bright. Non-Shinchao surges, the future is bright, and from now on, I'll be the strategist of the Magical Boy Alliance. No one in our group can break up the Magical Boy Alliance. This is a system determination and the source of Haruto Minase's important attribute points. If the Countermeasures Bureau didn't let Sora Amamiya become a magical boy, he wouldn't agree to the position. At that moment, there was a knock at the door, and the 2 little ones prepared fruit and snacks. Sora Amamiya quickly undid his transformation and returned to an ordinary appearance. The identity of a magical boy must never be revealed to ordinary people. This is an iron rule. The country doesn't know if I have eyes that see through everything. He could only see everyone's information and predict their actions and thoughts. When the government prevented me from being contemptuous, 2 big shots came to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me. I immediately sensed something was wrong. Haruto Minase walked to open the door. Aoi Shirasaki came in and set down a plate full of snacks. Thank you, Sister Sora Amamiya, for your polite response. Aoi Shirasaki smiled and patted his head, but suddenly mentioned Haruto Minase. Tomorrow, the relative's child would be staying for a while, about the same age as you, and hoped you wouldn't mind. Haruto Minase blinked, about to respond. Aoi Shirasaki added a note above his head. Aoi Shirasaki hopes you can make more friends of the same age. Although the new child accepts quests, he hopes to be as close as brothers. Haruto Manase suddenly realized that this is another new source of attribute points. The government's rewards, how their personality is, how they look, how handsome they are. Of course I welcome it, and I have no objections. Aoi Shirasaki smiled, patted his head, and left, leaving space for the two boys. The Countermeasures Bureau generally doesn't interfere with Haruto Manase's social relationships. As long as the social partners have clean backgrounds and have qualified character, they can rest assured. As long as it's not that Kigui fire blonde hair. Although Sora had his quirks, he was still within the acceptable range. The door closed again, and Haruto Manase glanced at Sora Amamiya. The magical boy's heroic demeanor was just as striking as his everyday demeanor, creating a striking contrast that made their conversation even more unique. "Right. Why are you so persistent?" The magical boy Haruto Manase stared intently, his anticipation of, "I'll provide the drink, you will bring the story," almost sticking to his face. Sora Amamiya scratched his face to avoid Haruto Manase's gaze. He had been fascinated by magical boy anime since childhood and had always longed for this profession. After saying this, he felt a bit awkward. His gloomy young master image actually had dreams, and he would definitely be laughed at. Longing for something interesting, Haruto Manase doesn't feel ashamed, only regrets. If it were another world, Sora Amamiya's obsession might be able to expand its domain. But here, he is probably the only magical boy, or perhaps just role-playing sorrow. Sora Amamiya's morale improved a bit. I awakened my supernatural powers, practiced magic boy poses and lines, and he earnestly listed transformation poses and cool lines. He looked incredibly handsome. At first, I thought I was a born magical boy. Even without a mascot to guide me, I found a target. At night, he would sneak out and use his flight to catch criminals, stopping several robberies and injuries. Those times were his happiest memories. Not long after, several powerful adults caught me, their expressions turning dejected. They said I wasn't a magical boy, but a psychic. Many people were just like me. Haruto Manase guessed it must be the Countermeasures Bureau. Those superpowered users were truly dream-shattering villains, as cruel as telling a child that there was no Ultraman. Fortunately, Sora Amamiya recovered quickly, but I didn't give up. Even if I wasn't a true magical boy, as long as I acted well, I would still become a true magical boy. I want to make Sweezy, the magical boy, the center of everyone's attention. His eyes sparkle like stars, and even in his ordinary form, he exudes the charm of a magical boy. All right, I support you, and your dreams are witnessed by me. The Countermeasures Bureau may find his childish dreams troublesome, but Haruto Manase is a slacking off, witnessing interesting things and enjoying the fun of slacking off. Sora Amamiya was moved and treated Haruto Manase as a confidant. If only Haruto Manase had met you earlier. It's not too late to meet now. Haruto Manase patting his head and hands are a bit unclean. Like young Master Gen, who had guarded his previous life, he wasn't so confident now, and now he felt at ease. Tonight, the magical boy activities continue, not missing a single day. Aoi, Haruto wants to see the monsters too. Bring him along. Sora Amamiya was surprised. Haruto Manase came too, but your family is mine. There's a way. Just wait for me downstairs. Haruto Manase doesn't care if the Bureau's blood pressure rises. Attribute points, here I come. I've watched magical boy anime before. Really? Haruto Manase, you're interested so early. Sora Amamiya snapped his fingers and could even shake his tail like a fan. With a solid foundation, he could easily become a new magical boy. Haruto Manase has supernatural powers and is handsome. Just being a strategist is a waste. The second magical boy should join in. Haruto Manase laughs blankly. I just find it interesting and don't want to be so tired. Sora Amamiya. Regret. Yes, you prefer slacking off. You get me. Haruto Manase nodded, but we can talk about magical boy together. And Diane, once the brain is in hand this afternoon, let's start an animation marathon, looking forward to it. The strategy game was efficient, and at 12:30, a fully assembled computer was delivered and plug-in ready to use. Haruto Manase stared at the white glass front apartment, full of satisfaction. In his previous life, he only cared about practicality. This time, with government support, he didn't spend big money on extra features, which would be a waste of money. Just set up the computer, draw the curtains, create a cinematic atmosphere, and the two men get alone and get ready. Here's the question. Which magical boy Sora Amamiya is a major show to watch? Almost everyone on the market has seen it, and after watching a few, you'll admire it. No way! Sora Amamiya Rabbit interrupted the shift and blushed. Haruto Minase glanced at it and made a baffling sound. So you really can't finish reading, just know a little. Sora Amamiya stammered to avoid Haruto Minase's gaze, not daring to meet his shy gaze. Surprisingly, there was a hint of cuteness. Mentioning the magical boy was dark and full of the aura of a mature young master. Clearly, he definitely couldn't see any of it. Haruto Minase smiled and said, "Then we'll see if we pick something even healthier another day." Sora Amamiya breathed a sigh of relief, thinking he had almost been mistaken for a pervert. The government has no idea. I have eyes that can see through everything. Not only can you see everyone's information, but you can also predict each other's actions and thoughts. When the government tries to stop me from being contemptuous, when 2 big shots were sent to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me, I immediately sensed something was wrong. The scene shifted to another resident's living room. Reiji Kurigane and several others stared solemnly at the big screen, spending the whole afternoon watching the magical boy animation. With their minds full of battle, they could hold out for this kind of shared child for so long. If Haruto Minase knew, he would definitely give a thumbs up. At least Haruto Minase had a handsome young master by his side, chatting from time to time, never bored, and enjoying him completely. Genji Huan is this thing. Another boy has a greater impact, and no weight exceeds the low point. I wonder if their understanding is a blessing or a curse, but whether children's problems are contagious, no way, who knows. Luckily, Haruto Minase felt he wasn't putting an unhealthy anime, or Sora Amamiya would have been judge disqualified. Haruto Minase was spotless during the investigation, and Sora Amamiya got involved in all sorts of messy things after arriving. Clearly, Haruto had led him astray. But luckily, that didn't happen. Haruto Minase didn't want to lose such an interesting companion. As dusk approached, Sora Amamiya went home before dinner and left, and the two agreed to meet that evening. Haruto Minase planned to sneak out with his supernatural powers without his parents noticing. Sora Amamiya had long been a habitual offender and was indifferent to this. By 10 p.m., Haruto Minase added the remaining 2 points of attribute to the mental power panel, upgrading from 10 to 12. Haruto Minase activated his ability to project the split body, returning to bed to rest without any fluctuation. Haruto Minase successfully slipped out of Sakuragaoka Heights, his features tightly concealed, keeping a distance from Sakuragaoka Heights. The external mental power greatly extended the split body's endurance, but it was useless. According to the data, the split strain should be enough for 1 night. Then he jogged to Sora Amamiya's building. The black-haired youth had already slipped out to guard the designated spot. At the southernmost edge of the river, a lone mouth must be called outside the forest code name. Sora nodded. Only then did Haruto Minase let go. Tong tong yao, yao yao mei mei. Guo, Haruto Minase nodded in satisfaction, and in the private room, the government was sensitive to him. If he shouted his name outside, he would be suspected, and next time, he would slip away even more. Without further ado, let's get back to square one. Sora Amamiya nodded enthusiastically. With Haruto Minase by his side, he definitely wouldn't be bored. Transforming, a flash of fluorescent light appeared, and Sora Amamiya instantly transformed into a blue-haired magical boy. Magical boy Suizi appeared. His aura changed dramatically. He turned his head, stretched out his gloved fingers, and raised his long hand as if about to take off. "Are you afraid of heights?" Haruto Minase couldn't hold his hand. The touch was slippery, white gloves as delicate as stockings, and he was terrified. It didn't matter. "But I protected you." Sora Amamiya held his hand tightly, and the two of them took off, ignoring gravity. "Hold on tight, Tong Yao." Relaxed. He accelerated immediately. Haruto Manase's eyes filled with a smile, full of excitement and excitement. Sora Amamiya unleashed his full power, his ability leaping abruptly, his speed surging, and he quickly disappeared into the night sky. 10 minutes later, the two of them landed in the central skyscraper. Haruto Minase Lion Banfu is nice to occasionally go out for a stroll at Yokohama Lantern Gate. The plan only requires completing missions to earn attribute points, but Haruto Minase didn't know about the night-flying bottle shun. Haruto Minase hugs the edge with full strength, fearless at the edge. Youth is all about fantasizing and showing off, and every scene must be tried on the first try. If he slipped, Sora Amamiya would surely catch him. As a member of the Magic Youth Alliance, his trust was priceless, and even if he fell, it wouldn't matter, so he could split his body and move freely. How does Suisei usually find bad people? Sky Patrols noticed something unusual and flew over. This isn't a magical boy. It's obvious. The Yokohama management officer, Haruto Manase, has completely failed, and the efficiency is way too low, and it's really troublesome for Lin. Summer is full of enthusiasm. The enemy has long abandoned today. Late, I can only accompany you for an hour and an hour later. The split body's endurance is limited. Haruto Minase originally wanted to accompany Suisei to the end, and the atmosphere was enough to keep the atmosphere warm. If you can come out with me, I'm satisfied with the time I'll take you home. Thank you, Haruto Minase, greedy for work. Sora Amamiya peeked out and looked into the distance, watching everything as if he had clairvoyant vision. Everything was normal, but tonight was quite peaceful. He went to a remote area to look for bad people. Peace. Don't get tired. Indeed, the magical boy represents love and peace. Young Master Suisei is the coolest. Haruto Minase only liked this pure, unadulterated, and unpretentious attitude. Only then did he realize he didn't love the young master. He preferred pure socializing. I prefer non-attribute points on the account even more. The appointment only required accompanying Sora Amamiya on the mission. Finding the bad guys was not necessary. System points Haruto Minase decisively invested points into mental power to raise it to 17. The vision increase is obvious, but Haruto Minase still doesn't understand the specifics of high mental power. If mental power doesn't increase, the number of fissions is mostly a numerical sensory enhancement. Haruto Minase top-tier guys bring more direct pleasure with strength and agility. Besides enhancing supernatural abilities, what else is Suisei's psychic power for? Those adults say mental power is omnipotent and can be mastered. Telekinesis is difficult to use, meaning telekinesis is cancelled out. The government has no idea I have eyes that can see through everything. Not only can you see everyone's information, but you can also predict each other's actions and thoughts. When the government tries to prevent me from destroying the world, when 2 big shots were sent to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me, I immediately sensed something was wrong. Haruto Minase recalled being suppressed by an unknown force yesterday, possibly due to mental power suppression and not using his full power. With tens of thousands of mental power that could crush his opponent in an instant, Sora Amamiya continued to replenish telekinetic power, skilled in the method, and could also send out my Suisei beam, which is the use of mental power. In dating, I want to shine with Yao Guangshu Haruto Minase's eyes as if they were genuine, and in the future I could hit a star-level cannon. Unable to hand it over, Sora Amamiya shook his head confidently. This was a superpower, a kind of magic, hard to explain. Haruto Minase understood that this was not something everyone could learn. Sora Amamiya could rely on supernatural powers to become strong and malleable. I'm tempted, don't lose heart. I believe Tong Yao. You can do it too. Just as Haruto Minase thought an hour of calm had passed that day, flames shot skyward, a thunderous roar deafening, awakening countless dreamers. A building hundreds of meters tall split apart. Flames gathered like fire, igniting the red night sky. Haruto Minase was shocked and speechless. Sora Amamiya immediately became serious. Hong Yao, hold it down. I'll go save them. Let's speak. Rushed to the scene. Haruto Minase took a cold breath and launched a terror attack. This attack was clearly not an accident, not a gas explosion. The answer was only one person. Someone was plotting a major disaster, and it could be a dangerous ability user. Haruto Minase immediately worried Sora Amamiya. This wasn't ordinary trouble, Suise. You shouldn't be defeated easily, right? Sora Amamiya's current stats are enough to deal with ordinary criminals, but if he encounters someone with powerful abilities, the consequences would be unimaginable. If not, we must relax. I'm just a split entity. Suze absolutely cannot be in trouble. Haruto Minase made up his mind and rushed to the scene immediately. If only Sora Amamiya had come with those short legs, who knows how long it would have taken to run. A broken building smashed onto the road. Flames spread everywhere, triggering terrifying chaos and a hellish scene where car horns and screams intertwined. If exposed, it would become nationwide shocking news. Ha ha ha! The figure engulfed in flames laughed wildly in the firelight, mad like a demon. The Countermeasures Bureau is here. Come out quickly. How am I performing? Can I make it into the top 10 of ability users? If I can't make the top 10, I'll keep destroying until first place. He casually waved the flames, instantly tearing apart nearby buildings. More screams rang out, stopping the rampage. Several blue beams flew in, striking the Enma, forcing him to halt for a moment. The Enma was burning and painful, his blood-red eyes staring at the floating little boy eating. I thought it was a mosquito bite, but where did the little ghost come from? No time to play house with you. Sora Amamiya was trembling with rage. Before arriving, he had only seen a dozen or so people. Along the way, he had seen charred corpses and ruins, with more trapped and cries for help everywhere. A sudden thought of helplessness suffocates his opportunity. As a magical boy, he realizes the true battlefield is far more brutal. The terrifying part is, the culprit continues the killing, and the number of victims keeps increasing. Sora Amamiya could only force the culprit to stop, suppressing his anger and questioning why the Enma harmed the innocent. The Enma sneered so much. Why do I want to do it? In my eyes, I just do it. But the temperature on the spot is like ants. The temperature soars, the air twists, and it's even more amazing. He didn't want to waste words. You were both an ant, but since you didn't come to the Countermeasures Bureau, you became a lost soulfire. The Enma clenched his single hand. The flame condensed into a whip, greatly increasing his field advantage. His strength bold and bizarre. The form's pressure and pressure suppressed Sora Amamiya's soul. This enemy was exceptionally powerful, unlike the usual minor skirmishes. If not careful, death was certain. There was no suspicion of the spirit. Sha Wei-Wei-Ying was cruel and ruthless, losing her power and rationality. Becoming a magical boy was not just about playing around. She couldn't fight head-on, but had to hold back the adults like him. He made quick decisions, not greedy or reckless, even though he was seen as a problem child, and his movements were not restricted. The Countermeasures Bureau tacitly allowed him to be active as a magical boy, not only because of his supernatural potential, but also because of his mature mind, not showing off or risking his life, and only acting within his responsibilities when facing strong opponents. He still remembered one thing. Haruto Minase was waiting for him to take him home. He absolutely could not afford to collapse. The death-going fire whip sliced through the air, nearly tearing apart the horizon. Sora Amamiya used his ultimate evasion to create distance by relying on his aerial advantage. Dead You isn't in real life, it's not anime. He didn't take the animation setting seriously. The Enma is a blue for countless dead ends. The colored beam self-deflects like a machine gun. The magic wand fires a beam that bursts and splits into more beams for saturation attacks. The Enma has poor ground mobility and can only passively take damage. The damage is minor, but it makes him furious. Peft, you fly around like a fly and I'll play along with you. He was hot-tempered, and flying fiercely. For most ability users, he was still a challenge. Top experts rarely managed to overcome gravity, and Flamen was clearly not one of them. At the same time, Haruto Minase had already appeared in the Jingdian Kingdom. I don't know if I have eyes that see through everything. I can not only see everyone's information, but also anticipate their actions and thoughts. So when the government tries to stop me from ending the world, it sends powerful people after me. When two big shots came to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me, I immediately sensed something was wrong. Not far away, the hot air made it hard for him to breathe. At this moment, he saw Sora Amamiya dodge 5 times in midair. Any mistake would mean utter ruin. Haruto Minase felt conflicted and deeply moved, so I had to help him quicken his pace. But the faster figure was slightly less engulfed, and the cold atmosphere suddenly raged. Whoosh, whoosh. Biting cold wind stirred up the temperature and dropped sharply. Most of the flames were extinguished, leaving only a few survivors around the Enma. When they arrived in the air, Sora Amamiya's eyes flashed, knowing reinforcements had finally arrived. But he made a fatal mistake, distracted during the fight, and the scorching fire struck from below. Sora Amamiya summoned the Suisei model to block the attack, but the fireside's power was terrifying. Most of the injured Anhai blocked, but were still knocked down and sent flying through the air. He fell to the ground. A painful figure poured down. If you have no intention to hold on, this single strike alone is enough to kill you. While his body could still move, he gritted his teeth and pushed himself up. But the burning figure of the Enma blocked his palm, and heart distance, focusing force away from the fire bullet storage technique. The flame magician didn't act immediately. Instead, he threatened the besieger and took another step forward. "I'll kill him." The official ability user hurriedly stopped, their gaze cold and fixed on him. They arrived quickly. The Enma caused the disaster, and the sudden destruction reached its peak in less than 10 minutes. If Sora Amamiya hadn't restrained him, the losses would have been even worse. "Tell me your reason for doing the fire," the Enma sneered, calling me Enma. "I submitted a bid for a certain organization to become a sequence ability user with the goal of seeing how I perform and see if you can recognize my potential. You might indeed be selected if you survive and leave, and the atmosphere instantly tightens. In the Enma, there are hostages, and those with abilities from the Countermeasures Bureau dare not act rashly." Haruto Minase reached the edge of the battlefield, hiding behind massive debris. He discovered that Sora Amamiya had been captured, and the magical boy had been defeated. Was this a fixed process? He secretly wondered in his mind, but he knows this is no joke. At this critical moment, Suisei is in a critical situation and constantly facing hell. The resurrection match must find a way to save her. The system is fast and powerful. It seems the system responds to the call, detects family members in danger, issues emergency rescue tasks, and during the rescue process gains 1/10 of the rescue target's panel data. After completion, is rewarded with 5 attribute faces. Haruto Minase glanced at Sora Amamiya's stats. Gift. Suisei's gift. Spirit 120, Strength 20, Stamina 18, Agility 22. Mental power increased by 8 points compared to before, probably because I just unleashed potential. So what is the 1/10 panel pickup stat? I will attack as a family hero. Sora Amamiya had turned into a white ash. As a magical boy who couldn't use unwillingness to use power, he still barely managed to stop the Enma. However, he continued to deal damage, but ended up as a hostage. At this moment, the Countermeasures Bureau's ability user picture was about to appear. Even though he had the ability to slay enemies, he could only freeze Lin on the spot. Shia pondered, what else could I do? Sacrifice was too cruel for a little boy, especially since he had just made a close friend and found another home. He was very unwilling to accept it. Just then, a voice suddenly echoed in Sora Amamiya's mind, lending me power. It was Haruto Minase, and Sora Amamiya were extremely excited, but the next moment he fell into worry. What exactly Haruto Minase was trying to do? Since Tongyao made the request, Suisei, as the Magical Boy League, naturally responded, so Sora Amamiya lowered his head lightly. The nearest Enma looked at him in confusion, almost doubting what he'd heard. At this moment, Haruto Minase's data panel had clearly improved after hiding behind the ruins of a building. Ability Fission, Mental Strength 1729, Strength 57, Stamina 57, Agility 57. For most ability users, this was just a small boost, but for Haruto Minase, every bit of improvement brought about a qualitative leap. But that's not enough. I must learn new moves. At critical moments, I can't be idle. Only by thinking can I save the defeated magical boy. Haruto Minase recalled that Sora Amamiya said that mental power is universal energy, not only used to release supernatural abilities, but a few can freely mobilize mental power for pure attackers. He wanted to maximize the use of pure numerical value. Suisei relies on his supernatural malleability, so if he could destroy the world in the future, how could he not do it? He had to force it, just like when he wrote novels to the death limit and forced himself to write 20,000 words. As long as he gave up slacking off and gave it his all, everything would get better. A flame of desperate effort burned in Haruto Minase's eyes, as if the author was about to end, vowing to die with nowhere to return, leaving everything behind, emptying his mind, forcing his mind to the limit, squeezing out every last potential within him. The next second, the world fell silent. Haruto Minase couldn't hear any other sounds, only his heart pounding emptily, and the feeling of feeling was coming. I thought I could do it, but black mist rose from below, covering his entire face. The government has no idea I have eyes that can see through everything. I can not only see everyone's information, but also anticipate their actions and thoughts. So when the government tries to prevent me from being doomed, 2 big shots came to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me. I immediately sensed something was wrong. At this moment, Haruto Minaze Ning's 4-character data was Fission Level 1, with Fission Energy 841, Strength 49, Stamina 49, Agility 49, Mental Power to be Aggressive Level 1, and a terrifying aura quietly formed. Yanmo had just sensed a change, and a beam of light was shooting toward him. Before he could react, his body felt as if his muscles and bones were immobilized by the giant hand, and half of the spiritual beam shattered, blood splattering from his chest. Wow, the Enma was sent flying backward, gliding in an instant, leaving a bloody trail. Everyone was stunned by the sudden change. Who was it? A figure shrouded in black mist stood atop a ruined wall, his face and eyes obscured. The experts sensed a gaze, sweeping the experts and not subordinates of the Countermeasures Bureau. Sora could hardly believe what he was seeing. He had already guessed Haruto's identity, and Haruto himself was momentarily stunned. His plan had worked. He had used telekinesis to restrain Enma and then followed up with a concentrated beam attack. If not for the heavy spiritual pressure of the Death Flame, it would be hard to comprehend this move. Each move with mental power above the target allows for all-around suppression. Previously, the Enma had been overwhelming at the fire scene. After the fire was quelled by a countermeasure player from the Counter Bureau, its momentum sharply diminished, indicating that the essence was extremely low, with a very low level of spirit, divine power, and water level, at most a weak arm and a close environment to level 1. Haruto Minase's mental strength reached 8.41, making him a true strong arm. Using mental power to suppress weak arms was incredibly easy. Koko, the Flame Enma, had not yet died violently, suddenly killing a strong and powerful great life, holding on with all his life, his eyes burning with anger as he stared at the dark shadow, his nearsightedness unwilling to do so. Who is there? Why are you trying to hinder me from making the list with my head covered? It doesn't seem like people over there do you any good. He and the Countermeasures Bureau share the courage of the capable and the hidden heads, while those who make the list are often unstable factors, and besides, this person is unfathomable. Everyone recognized the attack methods. Using pure spiritual power was far more proficient than advanced techniques that even the most skilled might not master, requiring countless practical combat skills. Those who could fight at this level were the backbone of the Countermeasures Bureau. The strongest Reiji Kurogane is a representative example. Haruto Minase Ueda was not yet reached. Enma Brain's overspeed calculation split body had limited time. The duration was limited, and the problem was thoroughly resolved. At the very least, he could come up with a good reason to sever ties with Lynxia. Enma was ruthlessly suppressed by Haruto Minase, losing control radically, clearly confident of victory, but was suddenly attacked and thrown into chaos by a stranger. This stark contrast made it impossible for him to stay calm. I have no grudge or enmity with you. Why stop me? Only by becoming a Sequence 1 expert can I be considered a member of the organization. If you kill me, I will never escape their pursuit." The mental pressure remained, and Enma gave it his all, erupting with all his might. Haruto finally answered, his voice cold. "A Sequence 1 user? What makes you think you're qualified to compare yourself with me?" The words undoubtedly leaked a large amount of information. The Countermeasure Bureau elite experts were all on high alert, as if facing a formidable enemy. Such arrogance was most likely the recorded Sequence 1 expert. Sequence 1 experts are extremely dangerous, and regardless of whether they are controllable or active, outsiders are a huge problem. The mysterious person may be one of them. Just thinking about being compared to a low-level loser like you makes me sick of losers like you. You deserve to die? The split body lasted nearly a while, and Haruto Manase launched a final strike to prevent Sora Amamiya from being in danger again. Stop the counter and pre-block the strategy board with one skill, but Haruto Manase's mental beam had already pierced through the Enma's head and instantly killed him. The Countermeasures Bureau's top expert, though regretful, was powerless to stop Ben from capturing him alive, interrogating him, squeezing the remaining value, and then executing him. At this moment, the focus of the standoff shifted to another heavyweight, unidentified, high-risk Sequence 1 expert. Haruto Minase absolutely didn't want to get entangled with the top experts from the Countermeasures Bureau. If their identities were exposed and they tattled to the monster dad, he'd be finished. He still lacks the ability to grieve in both limbs and cannot withstand this storm. Mission completion reward, 5 attribute points, increased bond with Sora Amamiya. Haruto Minase breathed a sigh of relief, and it was almost time to wrap things up. Suisi was seriously injured, and just looking at it was heartbreaking. However, Haruto Minase couldn't meddle in other people's affairs. As long as there was no life-threatening danger, that was enough. The one skilled in the strategy game was eyeing the game like a tiger, but still hadn't made a move. They estimated they were still waiting for reinforcements, and a few experts who couldn't beat him would soon arrive. Suddenly, he laughed, and under everyone's gaze, Haruto Minase let the split body dissipate, creating a strange, eerie scene. Everyone vanished without a trace. The psychics' faces changed. They frantically searched and disappeared. If they couldn't find them, they would report back first, giving the information a headache. Save the people first. They dispersed and lifted some to collect the bodies, others to rescue the crowd. One by one, the ability user checked Sora Amamiya after summer, then relaxed. The air injury hadn't worsened, so he went back to show his treating colleagues he could move tomorrow. Sora Amamiya weakly said, "Thank you." No one else suspected he was connected to Haruto Minase. Sora Amamiya was shocked inside. How could Haruto Minase be so strong? That promised weak boy had that overwhelming energy, even cooler than the magical boy. Haruto Minase really was suited to be a magical boy. The country doesn't know if I have eyes that see through everything. I can not only see everyone's information, but also anticipate their actions and thoughts. So when the government tries to prevent me from being destroyed, the government faction, when 2 big shots came to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me, I immediately sensed that something was wrong. That guy isn't considered human. Haruto Minase killed him, protecting me to give the dead an explanation. If you blame yourself because of this, I'll be sad, so don't treat him like a human being. You didn't carry any life on your back. Haruto Minase opened his mouth and stammered, staring at Sora Amamiya in shock and speechless. After holding back for a long time, he finally managed to say, "I thought you only dared to say such things after you turned into Suisei." The heavy atmosphere was broken by Sora Amamiya's shy smile, leaving him embarrassed as if steaming hot. It wasn't all for Haruto Minase, so don't look at me. So cute, she hugged Haruto Minase, thinking to herself that maybe some kind of soul was about to awaken. If he didn't tease him too harshly, would he force Sora Amamiya into his magical boy form? The branch in front of the split brow really couldn't beat Suizi's form, and Suizi had courage and action. Sora Amamiya, standing here now, was too cowardly. After a while, Sora Amamiya's heated earlobe gradually cooled. This little incident lightened the atmosphere a lot. Haruto Minase isn't afraid? This must be the first time, right? The The first time felt like kicking a stray dog by the roadside and sleeping soundly. Sora Amamiya relaxed when he saw Haruto Minase wasn't putting on airs. That was great. Magic Demon Young Master didn't need to be young, no need to be guilty about eradicating evil and evil. Haruto Minase was almost telling the Imperial family that he wasn't a magical boy, and that this kid wouldn't imagine him as a magical boy in the future before speaking about space. Actually, I have another question. Zero Drop interrupted Haruto Minase's wild thoughts. Why was Haruto Minase so amazing last night? For I have borrowed your strength. But your strength isn't that great, and borrowing it isn't enough to defeat the bad guys. This is the boost from friendship that such power erupts. Haruto Minase's half-truth, half-fake acting makes sense. Sora Amamiya quickly realized that it was the love and bond between magical boys. Indeed, magical boys have endless possibilities. Ah, yes, that's exactly it. Haruto Minase absolutely loves this self-convinced little boy. Sora Amamiya was stunned and didn't press further. Normally, a person would have already suspected Haruto Minase's supernatural abilities, but he only thought about the magical boy. Maybe this kid really was born with magic. Haruto Minase secretly glanced at the labels the system had given Sora Amamiya: the innate magical boy, the saint body, Sweezy spokesperson. Wow! The system all acknowledges him as a magical boy. They think he travels to Haruto Minase to another script to be so pure and explosive. Next, watch the magical boy animation. If you want to watch it with Haruto Minase, you can't transform into a magical boy to carry out justice for a week. It's brutal. But with Haruto Minase by your side, there's no pressure at all. Haruto Minase turned on his computer, ready to play animations. The new computer hadn't even tested its performance, bought it just to watch anime, and used a sledgehammer to kill chickens. I originally planned to download the game to test the waters, but the plan was ruined by Zero. The technicians were forced to watch this childish show together, and the torment was not easy. Some people enjoy it tirelessly, and with great interest. Haruto Minase was about to go to the living room to get some snacks, and Liu Ling put them in front of the computer. After just a few steps, she saw Aoi Shirasaki returning, holding the hand of a stranger. Haruto Minase quickly understood that Aoi Shirasaki would bring the boy back today, and he hadn't expected it to happen so early. Haruto Minase came to meet your brother. He'll stay for a while, and get along with Haruto. Haruto blinked and began sizing up the boy. Her eyes are eye-catching. Her petite figure is just as tall as Haruto Minase's. Her baby-shaped face is pale and tender. Her temperament gentle and gentle, like a top student who has already blended into the elite circle. The short-haired boy also stared at Haruto Minase, then asked him, hello, my name is Itsuki Saigusa. I'll be staying here for a while and want to get along well with you. My name is Haruto Minase, so getting along shouldn't be difficult. Haruto Minase replied, secretly using the system to observe him. As soon as Itsuki Saigusa stepped into the house, the door system systemically restored him to his place, making him part of the family. This was the older brother role. The prodigy of heaven, the perfect performer Itsuki Saigusa, observes your words and actions, trying to win trust by playing the perfect brother with your acting, exposing his disguise and revealing his truest side, rewarding him with a 5-attribute face and a full page of talent. Spirit 450, Strength 30, Stamina 28, Agility 36. Haruto Minase's brow twitched. His mental power was over 300 higher than below zero, and his attributes completely crushed him, approaching B level. No wonder he was a system-certified prodigy. So young, yet such a talented young man wanted to play house with him. Haruto wasn't especially nervous about his potential. HMPH, geniuses are just the threshold. Little geniuses can handle it easily. This task shouldn't be difficult. He decided to take the initiative. My friend and I were watching anime in the room. Should we join us? Would I disturb Itsuki Saigusa? He spoke with restraint, not counting things out of habit. No friends will be happy if multiple people join. Freezing is super easy. Pulling someone to watch magical boy animations together, the more magical boys, the better. Haruto Minase really understands him. All right, I'll accompany you. Itsuki Segusa slipped naturally into the role of a dependent younger brother, following Haruto Minase and the two of them back to Fang Kingdom. The family doesn't know I have eyes that see through everything. Not only can you see everyone's information, but you can also predict each other's actions and thoughts. When the government prevented me from being contemptuous, two big shots came to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me. I immediately sensed something was wrong. Haruto Minase came back and placed Mrs. Lin on the table. Sora Amamiya tilted his head, staring at Itsuki Segusa behind Haruto Minase. Why did Haruto Minase bring a boy in? Did the Lin team find out? Haruto Minase casually mentioned that this kid is called Itsuki Segusa and that my brother would stay for a while. Hello, my name is Sora Amamiya, a friend from Haruto Minase, Lincoln ni. Seeing Itsuki Segusa look over, he quickly looked away. If you're not familiar with others, you might want to hide in a corner or behind Haruto Minase. A stranger suddenly joined in. The aura was much better, and it was freezing, making you restless like being pricked by needles. Haruto added casually that he had also come to watch the Magical Boy anime. Really? Then let's watch together. As soon as he said this, it felt like Itsuki Segusa wasn't that scary. It's like a lofty god being pulled down from his pedestal, standing on equal footing with him. How could anyone who loves watching magical boys have any ill intentions? Itsuki Segusa glanced indifferently at Sora Amamiya. He did not stare for long. He recognized Sora as the troublesome young man, while Sora had no idea who he was. After all, Sora Amamiya often immerses himself in his own world and doesn't pay much attention to outside news. Otherwise, given Itsuki Segusa's lack of fame, no one would know anything about him. Itsuki Segusa from the Countermeasures Bureau had long been the top student of his age. Almost every child of his age knew him, and Itsuki Segusa hadn't expected this. Sora Amamiya actually first got to know those important people in the eyes of adults, but fortunately, Sora Amamiya didn't know about it. Then there's no time to delay. Let's take a look. Itsuki Segusa just arrived. Let's find BU and start from the beginning. Don't leave people confused. Haruto Minase operated the computer at 0 and quickly nodded in agreement. In front of the magical boy, this kid was serious. Once Haruto Minase made the arrangements, the three young men quickly sat down, lined up in a row, and the scene was so beautiful, it made Haruto's heart flutter. Haruto was about to reach for the snacks when a bag was suddenly handed to him. Itsuki Segusa smiled, as if he had been prepared for this. Itsuki Segusa would do his utmost to please you. After years of meeting expectations, this time would be no exception. He was known as a genius who could do anything. Haruto Minase couldn't help but lean back tactically. The servant-type brother was quite dramatic. He felt like he was already living the life of an emperor ahead of schedule, hungry. The young boy fed him snacks, and when he was thirsty, he immediately brought out a drink. Itsuki Segusa took meticulous care of him, treating him meticulously, and calling him a servant-type older brother was perfectly natural. Haruto Minase was a bit uncomfortable at first, but quickly gave in to this offensive. The little prodigy was working hard. What reason did Haruto Minase have to refuse? If he showed resistance, fearing it would disappoint Itsuki Segusa, he felt he was too soft-hearted. After Sora Amamiya left, he planned to carefully study the relationships with this new family. At this moment, Sora Amamiya was completely absorbed in the screen, his small body leaning forward slightly, completely unaware of the little movements of the two boys beside him. The magical boy was simply too captivating. He couldn't even open his eyes and was just thinking about becoming a magical boy. Haruto Minase thought this look was quite cute. The boy with shining eyes was the most captivating. He even wanted to try Sora Amamiya's reaction in a magical boy costume. Maybe the scene would be hilarious and heartwarming. Cherish the wardrobe, there's no such thing. Haruto Minase held back from looking, secretly watching Itsuki Segusa. The boy didn't even look at the screen, clearly not interested in the magical boy anime. Itsuki Segusa was probably watching to accommodate their interests and build trust. Haruto could see through that immediately. Itsuki Segusa planned to wait until Sora Amamiya left, find an opportunity to reveal his identity as an ability user, create common ground with you, and naturally exchange information about his abilities. Playing this trick was quite fun. A battle of wits and courage with the young man. Quite exciting. The only thing was that I had no idea how to get those 5 attribute points on him. In general, it means that in a beautiful world, one cannot be insincere. This shows that everything Itsuki Saigusa is doing now is a disguise, exposing his true side, making acting real. Haruto Minase thinks this is how it should be understood. Next, he could only use the system to dig deep into his secrets, which were hard to figure out at first glance. But Haruto Minase had an invincible system, which was no different from a boy interacting with pop-up options. Immediately buff the Domain Master. There will definitely be surprises tonight. At the same time, Reiji Kurogane and the others were fiercely discussing last night's events. The guy claiming to be a flame demon wants to join an organization made up of certain ability users, and those dangerous characters are actually band together. It's really frustrating. They even use the entry barrier of sequential ability users, as obviously disregarding the Countermeasures Bureau, making everyone increasingly anxious about the situation. The Countermeasures Bureau marks and wants codes for ability users. If a mysterious organization uses this standard, it will greatly increase the pressure on the countermeasures. Some people just wanted to join the organization, committing evil everywhere and causing lives to be at stake. Fortunately, the Enma was killed, or else the situation would have been even more passive. However, the core issue prevents them from ignoring the fact that the Enma is being killed, and the Countermeasures Bureau's superpowered individuals are other people. The government has no idea I have eyes that can see through everything. Not only can you see everyone's information, but you can also predict each other's actions and thoughts. When the government prevented me from being contemptuous, 2 big shots came to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me. I immediately sensed something was wrong. On the scene, the assassin was shrouded in black mist, his figure extremely mysterious, impossible to tell his gender or height, only spoke in Chinese. I hate people like the Enma. His tone was like a pair of wings, and it seemed that the sequence was also a sequence of ability users. No one in the sequence matched it, right? It was clearly covered so tightly that no one could recognize it. It may be a sequence not recorded within the record, or a confusing view. Reiji Kurogane stared intently at the scene, deeply unforgettable. I killed a similar being the night before last, unsure if it was the same person. These words made the scene feel solemn. Reiji Kurogane usually ignored Sakuragaoka Heights and Sakuragaoka Heights. If he made a move, he would surely spy on Sakuragaoka Heights' secrets. They really are the same gang. To survive under your command is simply incredible. Everyone was shocked, unable to imagine an enemy who could withstand Reiji Kurogane's mental suppression. This made the strange abilities difficult to use even in front of Reiji Kurogane. If this is really the same person, the situation is dire, and everyone whispers among themselves. The mysterious man mentioning sequence 001 indicates that he is watching him covetously. If someone escapes, Reiji Kurogane's pursuit is extremely difficult. It's undoubtedly bad news. Is he a member of that sequence psychic organization? Why do members have intentions in preparing for internal strife? Terrorist organizations lack discipline. Discipline and strength are extreme, and internal conflicts are common. To put it right, the membership standard might be to absorb all the ability users. In this way, they might sneak into Sakuragaoka Heights to seize the 00 and 1 boss of sequence. Yan's reputation intimidates villains. Any evil deeds and superpowers avoid their confrontation. If Yan Demon knew Reiji Kurogane was in Yokohama, he wouldn't dare act rashly. No one knew whether deterrence could suppress the mysterious organization. No matter how much they looked down on power, it could never fall into their hands. Reiji Kurogane sequence 001 safety depends entirely on you. Reiji Kurogane nodded firmly. This was his responsibility. Sneaky superpowered individuals left behind without a single person leaving behind the title of the strongest in modern times. They fought their way through. Moreover, we cannot remain passively on standby. We should actively engage with the mysterious organization that the Enma mentioned, investigate the purpose of the investigation, and dismantle the conspiracy. I had a thought. Since only ability users can join, why not create an ability user who obeys our orders and wait for them to come knocking? The undercover plan has quite a bright future. Haruto Manase had no idea he had been labeled a member of a terrorist organization, and even if he did, he would find it hard to protest. At this moment, he was deeply interested in outsmarting and braving the boy. Itsuki Segusa's adorable genius and ability user identity added to his charm and amusement. He certainly had endless fun, but the time wasn't right yet. The playful tricks on the emotional foundation are just treated like a little blind man. And acting in a bit more with Itsuki Segusa is not bad, and the cutfish teases me again. He went back first and said he'd meet tomorrow. It wasn't until evening that Sora Amamiya was ready to go home. Unfortunately, he couldn't live energetically in Yokohama as a magical boy for a week, or else Sora Amamiya might transform and drag Haruto Manase to patrol at night. The Suize boy still crashed, leaving 7 days until victory in the resurrection match. At dinner time, Reiji Kuragane still hadn't appeared. He only refreshed his message once every morning, and Haruto Manase couldn't rely on him to keep up with the latest national decisions. Aoi Shirasaki, as a chosen national figure, spends her days immersed in the joy of raising her son. She has no time to care about her status or duties. Just looking at Haruto Manase, he was overwhelmed by Aoi Shirasaki's deep maternal love, which made him unable to dislike her. Appointing Aoi Shirasaki as his mother was undoubtedly the wisest decision. No sensitive child could see any flaws. Who would have thought that Aoi Shirasaki, whose head was covered in scars, was actually a peak artist, with mental power over 1,000 stronger, even stronger than the Enma? Looking at the quiet and defeated Itsuki Segusa, Itsuki Segusa is observing your preferences, quietly noting the frequency and goals of your dishes, preparing to secretly cook for you. I was exhausted, Lord Itsuki Segusa. If it weren't for knowing this young man's heart was not pure, Haruto Manase would have almost shed tears. This family truly hides hidden dragons and hidden talents. After taking a shower, Haruto Manase put down his bowl and chopsticks, preparing to wash himself halfway up. Sora Amamiya had already returned home. Only then did his supercomputer come in handy, and he could really put in a few big titles, messing around with graphics cards and CPU performances. This computer would have been a waste. Brother, can I join you? Itsuki Segusa's voice sounded from behind. After dinner, Itsuki Segusa wanted to bathe with Haruto Manase. For him, it was also an opportunity to strengthen their relationship and build trust, but mere closeness isn't enough. The key is to talk about everything. That's what adults expect from them. If we were together, I'd be a bit shy, so Haruto Manase politely declined. Joking around, even if he became a teenager, he couldn't just do whatever he wanted. He wasn't used to bathing with many people, especially a boy. It's really not as good as our own fission in the government. The family doesn't know I have eyes that see through everything. I can not only see everyone's information, but also anticipate their actions and thoughts. So when the government tries to stop me from showing contempt, when 2 big shots came to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me, I immediately sensed that something was wrong. They're all boys, so why be shy? Itsuki Segusa was clearly unwilling to give up easily. This isn't a matter of whether he's a boy or not. Haruto Manase couldn't lie and say he needed a private space to direct the flight's takeoff. If Itsuki Segusa knew, even a genius would have short-sighted little brother on the spot. I want to get along with you, really. Can't we be together? Itsuki Segusa's eyes were full of pleading, using his brother's advantage to launch an attack. This was not a spur-of-the-moment decision. He had been prepared for this all along. All day long, Itsuki Segusa was trying to please Haruto Manase as the older brother, completely obedient and perfect. Even the hardest brother to win over is hard to find fault with. Not only is he talented in performing arts, but his communication skills are also extraordinary. At this moment, Haruto Manase was like a scheming youth who had been serving for so long and having been served for so long. All right. Haruto Manase reluctantly agreed. This round of sacrifice wasn't much, but the reward was quite good. Aoi Shirasaki watched with great interest, thinking, a rare encounter. Can Mom join in? No, Mom, absolutely no. Haruto Manase decisively refused, his tone firm and unwavering. Itsuki Saigusa let it go. After all, he was the super big brother, so he had a reason to join the fun. Aoi Shirasaki sneaking in here is just a wild idea. Haruto Manase didn't even look at the intentions on his head. He knew that if he was given the chance, the situation would definitely spiral out of control. This son-obsessed man was truly hopeless. He actually rejected her so bluntly. Mom was heartbroken, acting cute was no good, and Mom wasn't as cute as her brother. We'd wait until she leveled up her attributes to talk about that. Haruto Manase was very practical, and his mom, who couldn't give attribute points, directly rejected him. Holding Itsuki Saigusa's hand, he ran off, not giving Aoi Shirasaki a chance to fish in troubled waters. Aoi Shirasaki glanced lightly at the dripping rain kid in his mouth, and Fan's plans went smoothly. Haruto Manase seemed to like him quite a bit. But could this really make him real family? Itsuki Saigusa came with a mission, far from truly invested, and it was clear he was under immense pressure. Is he really living for himself now? Aoi Shirasaki hopes to use this opportunity to help Itsuki Saigusa stay away from high pressure. This patchwork home finds some breathing room. Haruto Manase took Itsuki Saigusa back to his room to change clothes. You just arrived today, and if you don't have enough clothes, put on mine first. Haruto Manase opened the wardrobe and finished picking out underwear. They have similar body shapes and don't care what they wear, but every time they pick out those cute underwear, they feel like they're a pervert. Listen to your Itsuki Saigusa standing behind him, a trace of thought flashing in his eyes. The plan progressed smoothly, and Haruto Manase was easy to get along with. Far less withdrawn than the adults described, he appeared more mature. He mostly interacted with competitive peers, men and women competing for the top spot as a genius. Itsuki Saigusa felt extremely naive and pressured, but coming here greatly eased the pressure. After all, the task was daunting and only he could complete it. No one else could carry the reputation and high expectations of a genius. Itsuki Saigusa chose to take on the task and engage with even more talented talents. Haruto Manase is someone who can destroy the world, and his future achievements may even surpass Reiji Kurogane's. For Haruto Manase, Itsuki Saigusa willingly let go of all his genius pride, giving his all to be Haruto Manase's favorite older brother. At that moment, Haruto Manase picked out some clothes and handed them to Itsuki Saigusa, gently patting and loosening up. Relax, I don't need a completely obedient brother. Itsuki Saigusa was stunned. Itsuki Saigusa's casual, no need, made him feel as if the sky was falling and the earth was sinking. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Haruto Manase looked strange. Why apologize? You didn't do anything wrong. I don't know. I only know it seems to upset you, little brother. Blame me for becoming the vicious boy supporting character. Haruto Manase felt like he was bullying an innocent boy. Immediately, his gaze swept over Itsuki Saigusa's head, and countless handwriting lines appeared wildly above his head. This genius boy was actually reviewing every move of the day, frame by frame, even frantically analyzing what made people unhappy. At this moment, Itsuki Saigusa was extremely anxious. Could the mission be about to fail? Just thinking about this outcome made him feel suffocated. Haruto Manase's mouth twitched uncontrollably. He never expected that a casual sentence could make a genius boy imagine a suspense drama. The pressure was just too immense. He hesitated, and after a moment of silence, his words turned into a single movement. Haruto Manase directly placed his hand on Itsuki Saigusa's head and gently rubbed me. There is no displeasure. On the contrary, I am happy with you, so don't overthink things. Feeling the warmth coming from above, Itsuki Saigusa's previously rapidly running thoughts instantly shattered, and all his unease vanished. The huge psychological gap completely lost his ability to think, and when faced with Haruto Manase's words, he could only nod repeatedly. Let's go. Let's take a shower. First, make sure to wrap a towel around your waist, or it'll be hard for me to concentrate. The government has no idea I have eyes that can see through everything. I can not only see everyone's information, but also anticipate their actions and thoughts. So when the government tries to stop me from showing contempt, 2 big shots came to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me. I immediately sensed something was wrong. Seeing Itsuki Saigusa's lack of opinion, Haruto Minase finally understood. It turns out this is also a hidden issue. The child Tong is just a genius, with a huge aura that masks his inner sensitivity. Now, burdened with heavy responsibilities and afraid of disappointing expectations, he demands extreme self-discipline. Haruto Minase couldn't help but complain inwardly, saying, "Can't the government send someone carefree to come and slack off together?" With no other choice, Haruto Minase could only lead Itsuki Saigusa to the bathroom. Fortunately, he didn't run into Aoi Shirasaki on the way. Otherwise, that pitiful expression would be impossible to explain. At the bathroom door, Haruto Minase waved his hand in front of his eyes. "Hey, hey, hey! Come back to your senses. Do you want me to help you undress? If I touch your itchy flesh later, don't blame me." Suddenly awakened, Itsuki Saigusa quickly stepped back, thinking he could handle it himself. He would never dare to trouble Haruto Minase, and once labeled as needing care, he would likely be disliked, so he had to show independence. Hearing this humble voice, Haruto Minase felt even more helpless. Being so cautious and making himself look like a big villain, if this continued, his conscience would ache. He had to be properly disciplined. Just as Itsuki Saigusa took off his clothes, the next second a white bath towel was directly placed over his head. He grabbed a towel and covered his lower body, staring confusedly at Haruto Minase, who was completely naked. "Don't you need it?" Haruto Minase stood with his hands on hips, head held high, chest out. He didn't need me to look at other boys' bodies. If he was shy, it wouldn't matter if other boys looked at him. This body was still worth pride, and being glanced at by other shota was never a loss. Hearing this bizarre reason, Itsuki Saigusa felt the urge to insist on complaining. Since they were all boys, it was completely unfair. He didn't dare say a word. But Haruto Minase saw it clearly. Itsuki Saigusa felt it was a bit unfair. To be precise, it wasn't equal. Haruto Minase was full of question marks. It was just a bath towel. The little brains of sunflower seeds started imagining a bunch of big joys. However, thinking that just for the bath towel means it hasn't been fully accepted. But if his good intentions were taken as sarcastic and mean, the good boy could only change his mind. Haruto Minase bared his teeth and suddenly tore off Itsuki Saigusa's towel. Since he didn't like it, he didn't want it. Itsuki Saigusa panicked instantly. "Did I make you angry again?" "Sorry." But this time, Haruto Minase didn't deny it. He was angry with me, so you have to help me wash my hair and scrub my back. If it makes me happy, I'll forgive you. Hearing this clear request, Itsuki Saigusa actually let out a long breath, instantly regaining his composure. "All right, I'll do my best. At least I won't be confused and fumbling for favorability." But Haruto Minase's hobby was actually having someone serve him while bathing. How strange. Fortunately, Haruto Minase had already turned around. Otherwise, seeing this absolute rebuttal would have been exasperated, shouting slander. Then the warm water poured down. Haruto Minase closed his eyes and carefully felt the pressure. The force felt much better than washing blindly. His actions were gentle and delicate, full of experience. Haruto Minase couldn't help but hum softly in comfort. If he had to comment, it would be just 2 words: slightly tipsy. The close-range touch of skin combined with meticulous pressure made Haruto Minase squint in comfort, his mind filled with only one extremely high praise. Very hot, a genius boy who really is a genius at bathing. After enjoying the soothing wash, Haruto Minase quickly pinned Itsuki Saigusa onto the little stool. "Treating you well." "Wash away," Itsuki Saigusa's repeated bare hands. "No need to trouble you. I'll do it myself." How could he dare make the big shot lower himself? But Haruto Minase wasn't buying it at all. What a joke. Was it only allowed for you to boost my favor, but not for you? Then who would make up for the attribute points I lacked? Just the next second, Itsuki Saigusa fully enjoyed Haruto Minase's unique backsplinting technique. Washing the fruit at this stage was no big deal, but it immediately caused a major accident. Haruto Minase's gaze swept over, and he nearly suffered internal injuries from anger. At this moment, despair was wildly floating above Itsuki Saigusa's head. Oh no, it hurts. Haruto Manase really is angry with me. Haruto Manase was completely speechless. His good intentions were treated as harsh torture. Wasn't it just washing his hair and pulling out a few strands of hair? This brat actually looked like he was silently enduring punishment, angry but afraid to speak out, acting so aggrieved. If it weren't for the system to peek into his thoughts, he would really have been kept in the dark. Damn it, he'd never help boys bathe again in this lifetime. Haruto Manase angrily dried off himself, put on pajama pants, and rushed out of the bathroom without looking back. Only Itsuki Saigusa, with a fierce expression, was left behind. This time, the genius youth was completely scheming. The assignment was simply impossible. Challenging Haruto Manase's younger brother's emotions was even harder to grasp than Tianki. The government has no idea. I have eyes that can see through everything. Not only can you see everyone's information, but you can also predict each other's actions and thoughts. When the government tries to stop me from being contemptuous, when 2 big shots were sent to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me, I immediately sensed something was wrong. By the time he arrived in the living room, Haruto Manase was already gone. Only Aoi Shirasaki. Aoi Shirasaki was on the sofa, smiling and unmatched. How was his relationship with Haruto Manase going? Itsuki Saigusa instantly lost his composure, his eyes full of disappointment, as if things were not going smoothly. Facing Aoi Shirasaki's naturally tolerant aura, the genius boy who always likes to push himself to the limit couldn't help but let out a huge spit, but Aoi Shirasaki just ruffled his wet hair, trying to forget it was a mission and not to think about the consequences of failure. Itsuki Saigusa shook his head frantically, but this concerned the fate of the world. Aoi Shirasaki sighed helplessly. The pressure from the higher-ups on this child was just too great. The aura of genius couldn't hide the fact that he was still a child. Shuan could only throw out a sea-calming divine needle. Did he know Reiji Kurogane? Itsuki Saigusa was stunned. That was the pinnacle of spoils everyone had high hopes for. Aoi Shirasaki immediately added, saying that no matter the outcome, she would have his back, and if the sky fell, there would be someone tall to hold it up. Hearing this, Itsuki Saigusa responded with a soft sound. Whether he could figure it out or not would have to rely on this genius's brain to process it himself. Just as the healing drama was unfolding in the living room, Haruto Manase returned to his room and completely let herself go. Save the world, show your courage. Tonight Tong stands aside. YX Hunter immediately activates the target, selects the katana, locks the prey. The keyboard clicks loudly, a smooth and fluid thrust, sword slash, eats my lantern, and slash. At the same time, the group of tech experts watching the surveillance footage were all stunned. Who would believe that this ancestor was playing a hardcore action game in the middle of the night and the smooth combos didn't seem like a beginner's at all? Then, the most dramatic scene unfolded. Just as the coolest ultimate was about to strike, the monster stepped back, lantern sword sliced through the air, and the scene shifted, instantly carrying the cat car at lightning speed. The control forces instantly erupted in laughter, perfectly matching the ultimate fate of the Tachi hero. Now Haruto Manase was completely in the spotlight. Thinking about this extremely appetizing move, which was being watched by a crowd, he wished he could dig out 3 billion ting trash on the spot. No more trash games. Haruto Manase decisively disgraced the waves. The big shots from the monitoring forces forced a smile. This technology was just too funny. Should someone be sent to help him out? Don't go. What if he really loses his composure and destroys the world? The air instantly filled with a sense of joy. To ease the awkwardness, Haruto Manase decisively took out his phone and started browsing group chats, specifically targeting those who like to post malicious pictures to watch. Just thinking about how the surveillance forces were being forced to follow him and start peeing made him linger a few more seconds. It was just terrible. Sure enough, it didn't take long for all those group members who posted pictures to be blocked by some mysterious force. Haruto Manase got his wish and played all night. Except for occasionally making play-friendly moves that felt embarrassing, This night was absolutely thrilling. The next morning, Haruto Minase, sitting under the covers, groggily heard a spell of darkness. My brother got up and wanted to eat breakfast while it was hot. Suddenly, I opened my eyes wide and relaxed from sleep. Itsuki Segusa's well-behaved, soft, and adorable face instantly caught his eye. This guy, a dignified genius artist, has actually become an incredibly healing, artificial little alarm clock. Ben thought he was going to stay in bed until he stayed in bed. But the next second, Haruto Minase suddenly threw off the blanket and stood on the bed like a true gentleman. This way of driving away the restless was extremely hardcore. At that moment, Itsuki Saigusa stared at Haruto Minase's frizzy hair. His obsession was acting up. "Brother, do you want me to help you tidy your hair?" If Haruto Minase wanted him to agree readily, he would always pull his hair too hard, pulling through the scalp. At this moment, asking the experienced Itsuki Saigusa was definitely the best choice. Immediately after, Itsuki Saigusa picked up the comb, moving gently and skillfully. To those unaware, they thought they were brothers who had lived together for over 10 years. However, Haruto Minase looked at Itsuki Saigusa in the mirror, his gaze growing heavy. "Isn't this exhausting?" Itsuki Saigusa was stunned on the spot. Haruto Minase decided to confront this issue directly. His mind was filled with headaches and complicated plans, and as time went on, he had no idea how to continue the act. "I've said before, I don't need a submissive little brother. If you're willing to face me with your truest self, I'll be very happy." But Itsuki Saigusa remained completely in place. Haruto Minase's lips curled into a sly smile. "Wanting to ask how I know? Let me tell you a little secret. I can read minds." As soon as he finished speaking, Itsuki Saigusa's mind went blank. One desperate thought after another, thoughts of madness and wildness spread. The world might be doomed. At this moment, Itsuki Saigusa's face was deathly pale, his mind in turmoil. If Haruto Minase were to rise alone, the identity of his adoptive parents would be completely exposed under surveillance by the Countermeasures Bureau. Wouldn't that expose the complete lack of national heritage? The country doesn't know, I have both look, clear, a device-cut eyes. Not only can you see everyone's information, but you can also predict each other's actions and thoughts. When the government tries to stop me from being contemptuous, when 2 big shots were sent to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me, I immediately sensed that something was wrong. Is the reaction really that strong? Aren't you afraid I'm tricking you? Haruto Minase looked the other guy up and down with interest, feeling like a villainous villain. Yet Itsuki Saigusa lowered his head, but the comb in his hand didn't stop. "I believe what you said is true. You can see something unusual from my actions, and that confidence is enough to prove it." Next, it was Haruto Minase's turn to smile with satisfaction. If this brat completely collapsed mentally, the Countermeasures Bureau would definitely take a big move, and his entire cuttlefish ambition would be ruined in an instant. Unexpectedly, Itsuki Saigusa's heart had already slipped into an abyss. He felt that the mission had failed the very next day, and Haruto Minase was not only watching the show, but might have long been dissatisfied with the surveillance. The countdown to the destruction of the world has probably already begun. Itsuki Saigusa felt desperate that the world would surely destroy the world in the future, and Haruto Minase was full of questions. "Grandma, why are you even more extreme than me?" Stop, don't make decisions on my behalf." Then Haruto Minase suddenly turned around and grabbed Itsuki Saigusa's cheek, kneading it wildly like kneading rice cakes, until his gaze returned to lightness. Then Haruto Minase looked down at him from above. "Listen carefully. From now on, you must stay by my side and never tell anyone my secret." Itsuki Saigusa tilted his head, looking puzzled. Hololase stood with his hands on his hips confidently. "I have no intention of destroying the world as long as you don't interfere with me and slack off. You can raise me however you like." Unexpectedly, Itsuki Saigusa opened his mouth slightly, his eyes filled with shock, thinking he had no future. Itsuki Saigusa thought he was a useless boy. Haruto Minase's almost ground his molars to pieces. What kind of blunt truth is this? I don't have grand ambitions. I'm really sorry. Itsuki Segusa bowed repeatedly, apologized, and said, "Poison Lone Heart, this move is way too much of a foul." This allowed Itsuki Segusa to breathe a sigh of relief. As long as Haruto Minase still loved life, the world would be absolutely safe. He knew I was here to scam him, so why did he still let me stay? Haruto Minase deliberately put on a stern face, showing a fierce expression. That way, I could keep a close eye on you. If I found out you leaked a secret, I'd destroy the world immediately. Nor do you want the world destroyed because of your mistakes. Itsuki Segusa's face turned pale, clearly caught in the midst of this scornful pot. How could a mere young boy possibly bear such a heavy responsibility? Can you please stop destroying the world? Itsuki Segusa was full of pleading, almost crying from anxiety. Haruto Minase, however, was completely dissatisfied. This wasn't bullying, it was physical correction. Whose good people make the little boy shoulder the heavy burden of saving the world every day? Then Haruto Minase pressed his shoulder firmly. "Itsuki Segusa, you have only one identity now, and that is my brother Luo." Itsuki Segusa nodded desperately and took a careful note. "And no way to try to please me? We must get along as equals." As soon as he finished speaking, Itsuki Segusa's face instantly flushed red, and his carefully planned plan was exposed to the eye. It was even more humiliating than running naked. But Haruto Minase grumbled in anger, thinking he was a normal little boy. He wanted to drag this so-called genius down from his pedestal and fully integrate into this patchwork family. Most importantly, forget your mission. From today on, you are no longer an undercover agent. It's just that my brother Haruto Minase's tone makes no room for refusal. Since the Countermeasures Bureau wanted to cultivate Itsuki Segusa into a second prince, he insisted on letting this genius boy fall to the mortal world. Hearing this, Itsuki Segusa was completely bewildered. Logically, orders from Kasumigaseki headquarters should be the top priority. If giving up his duties to save the world, those adults should understand. Unexpectedly, as soon as this thought appeared, Itsuki Segusa felt a huge relief. Carrying the expectations of the crowd, he abandoned the daunting task of Haruto Minase. Even Itsuki Segusa himself now just wanted to be a deserter. The next second, he gave a smile as if relieved. I'll forget everything, thank you, little brother." Upon completing his duties, Itsuki Segusa officially assumed the identity of his younger brother and received countless honors. Haruto Minase snorted proudly, calling out, "What genius boy! Wasn't he still easily and swiftly cleared by him?" Then Haruto Minase led his new brother to the living room. The report dad, Reiji Kurogane, indeed refreshed on the sofa right on time. On the table lay 2 steaming hot breakfasts. Haruto Minase secretly glanced at Reiji Kurogane, whose face was covered by the newspaper, and casually cast a poison spell at him. Reiji Kurogane was as calm as still water, with no thoughts at all. Fortunately, if he had heard the contempt in the room just now, he probably wouldn't even have a chance to argue. At that moment, Reiji Kurogane put down the newspaper, stood up, and went out to work. "Be careful on the way," Haruto Minase smiled and waved goodbye. Saying it was to work and wandering around Sakuragaoka Heights had already been seen through by him. The government has no idea I have eyes that can see through everything. Not only can you see everyone's information, but you can also predict each other's actions and thoughts. When the government prevented me from being contemptuous, 2 big shots came to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me. I immediately sensed something was wrong. Then Haruto Minase happily sat at the table eating, with Itsuki Segusa standing right next to him just a fist's width apart. After shedding his burden, the boy's spirit was renewed, and his body felt lighter than ever before. But when he saw how Haruto Minase and Reiji Kurogane interacted, his heart was once again stirred with turmoil. In just a few days, Haruto Minase was able to navigate this environment full of lies with ease. He knew very well that Reiji Kurogane was the strongest psychic in modern times. If Haruto Minase made any move to harm the world, Reiji Kurogane would definitely kill him immediately. Yet Haruto Minase, under this terrifying pressure, naturally ate and drank and greeted without showing a single flaw. Such a dreadful star made Itsuki Segusa gasp sharply. While he was lost in thought, a broad hand suddenly rubbed the top of his head. Don't think about those messy things just eating properly. Itsuki Segusa shrank his neck in grievance. Don't just block my heart. Haruto Minase nodded approvingly. That was more like it. Protesting when you don't like someone is a normal brother. Does protest work? Completely ignored, Haruto Minase refused without mercy. What a joke. He was treated like an electronic pet by his group members every day and had nowhere to complain. Yet Itsuki Segusa obediently lived under his control. After eating and drinking his fill, Haruto Minase grabbed Itsuki Segusa, dashed back to the room, and with a click, locked the door shut. Before Sora Amamiya arrives, hurry up and show me your skills. Itsuki Segusa's eyes widened instantly. Was he still going to put on a show? Of course, you don't want to. He was willing. But Itsuki Segusa looked around with concern. What if the surveillance cameras found out? Unconsciously, he had already begun to wholeheartedly care for Haruto Minase. But Haruto Minase casually waved his hand blankly. Rest assured, no problem. They wouldn't dare go too far. You casually show Haruto Minase's grand gesture, and the evening gaze is full of anticipation. Unexpectedly, Itsuki Segusa's expression was complicated. According to the original plan, he was supposed to force Haruto Minase to reveal his trump card, but unexpectedly, it had turned into a talent show between brothers. I started it, Itsuki Segusa whispered softly, not even making a move. Haruto Minase was curious about how he would show off. Immediately after, a strange scene occurred. Itsuki Segusa's figure vanished into thin air without any warning. Disappearing, Haruto Minase looked around in surprise. Not even a single hair on his head. The next second, the entire room seemed to vanish as if weathered. When Haruto Minase came to his senses, he suddenly found himself standing atop a snowy mountain. The biting cold wind howled wildly, making his skin crawl. This was no illusion. He was truly immersed in the scene. Just then, Itsuki Segusa's voice drifted in, coming and going. From the moment you saw me, you were already enchanted. I can let you hear the painting I want you to hear. Itsuki Segusa's snow-capped mountains suddenly tore apart. A deep, lifeless, starry sky crashing down, and the extreme drop made Haruto Minase's scalp tingle. I can even make you fight to the death in the illusion, while in reality, you'll just be like a statue, at the mercy of others. That's my ability, blinded by sight overnight. After hearing this, Haruto Minase couldn't help but complain wildly, saying, this was just an illusion. Then he switches style, so you are sequence 016. Itsuki Segusa, hiding in the shadows, felt a jolt in his heart. How could he have known? Haruto Minase lifted his lips proudly. Given the nature of the Countermeasures Bureau, how could such an outrageous skill not be included in the order? I'm ready to remove my abilities. Haruto Minase interrupted immediately. In just 3 seconds, the surrounding scene changed wildly. Starry sky, waterfall, intersection, and beach flickering alternately. But Itsuki Segusa never showed up. At the moment of the thousands of battles, Haruto Minase instinctively stretched out his hand, and a warning sensation suddenly came from his palm. With a cry of surprise, the unbreakable night barrier shattered in an instant, and his vision abruptly cut back to the familiar room. Itsuki Segusa clutched his crotch tightly, the red from his crotch burning all the way to his ears. Haruto Minase rubbed his fingertips and inexplicably lifted his chin. Chasing after me? I don't have the wisdom to listen. At this fierce and wolfish remark, Itsuki Segusa's eyes were full of superiority and charm. Compared to being slapped on oil, he now felt even more chilled. Haruto Minase not only saw through his fantasies, but was also able to act freely. His mental power was clearly only D-level. How could he possibly break free from absolute control that even high-level ability users were helpless? Could his mental power be fake? Seeing Itsuki Segusa questioning his own life, Haruto Minase blinked mysteriously. Just think of this as my supernatural ability. After all, a system panel kept floating in his line of sight as a physical reference. The government has no idea. I have eyes that can see through everything. I can not only see everyone's information, but also anticipate their actions and thoughts. So when the government wanted to prevent me from destroying the world, when 2 big shots were sent to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me? I immediately sensed something was wrong, but in Itsuki Saigusa's eyes, it was like a miracle. Truly impressive, this once lofty genius boy finally accepted it completely. While the atmosphere was harmonious, Haruto Minase's eyes darted around when a wildly crazy idea popped into his mind. "Little Itsuki, can you create an illusion to stay in the room and cover me by sneaking out?" Itsuki Saigusa's face went blank. "I am supposed to deceive Mr. Reiji Kujogane? That's like asking me to fool the strongest person in the building." Itsuki Saigusa shook his head desperately, unable to do it. Haruto Minase suddenly realized that his father was nothing but a pure resin jar. This neighborhood is full of hidden dangers. Expecting Itsuki Saigusa to deceive them is simply asking too much. "Little Itsuki, you're so weak," Haruto Minase is mercilessly complaining. Then he changed the subject and simply called him Little Itsuki. Itsuki Saigusa not only didn't argue, but actually enjoyed this casual exclusive title, completely tearing off the genius label he carried. Sora Haruto Minase was completely unfazed. Even without outside help, he could sneak out using his fission. At most, due to time constraints, using his main body to go out was extremely risky. So Haruto Minase decisively poured 5 points into his mental power panel, and the value started skyrocketing. 23 points instantly soared to 28. Once he activated fission, his mental power skyrocketed to 7, 84, and 84 pairs. The mental control skills he gang mastered exploded, reaching a level of forced force surpassing Daeun Dad and was just around the corner. But at that moment, a thought arose in Haruto Minase's heart. Speaking of which, how can your mental power be so high? That dazzling value of 450 is far beyond what a normal boy can reach. Even Suisei Shota barely breaks 100 listening barriers. At this point, Itsuki Saigusa's gaze gradually dimmed, and he quietly began to plan his daily routine. Morning mental power training, afternoon simulated real combat. At night, peers sparred and had to force themselves to realize this before bed. Such a twisted routine made Haruto Minase gasp in shock. This is way too tight-lipped. If it were him, he'd definitely die in a single day. This was all your choice. Half is honest anticipation, half is not wanting to let them down. Haruto Minase nodded thoughtfully. The next second, a shocking rain fell. "Wait for me, invincible," and slap those teachers a few times. Itsuki Saigusa's eyes widened in shock. What an astonishing and extraordinary eye. Haruto Minase, however, looked indignant, daring to force things to grow. This was clearly mistreating the boy. Itsuki Saigusa hurriedly grabbed his hand, trying to stop him, but Haruto Minase immediately looked displeased, saying, "I stood up for you, and you actually helped an outsider." Itsuki Saigusa could only blink his left eye in grievance, cautiously testing whether he could go easy and promise not to kill him. Hearing this promise, Itsuki Saigusa was instantly overcome with sorrow. "Sorry, masters. I hope you can endure it when the time comes." Haruto Minase, seeing through the other person's thoughts, was in a great mood. "Anyway, don't push yourself so hard. Just rest well." But Itsuki Saigusa looked completely confused, idle, and had no idea what to do. At that moment, Haruto Minase wrapped his arm around his shoulder, his eyes flickering, and the light beneath his feet shone as if inviting a pure-hearted youth to join the evil camp. "I'll slack off together, and soon you'll experience the joy of depravity." Dragging the rolling king along to slack off together is truly delightful to both body and mind. His wicked inner curl, the curled dog, is meant to transform into a true and upright wife, Ranran. Just as the two were happily enjoying themselves, a piercing howling wind suddenly came from outside the window. Haruto Minase shuddered all over, almost clutching his head and crouching down on the spot, shouting that he loves beef. He was stunned for a full 2 seconds before realizing that this time the target wasn't actually him. The wind was so strong that the two of them curiously rushed to the balcony to take a look. Outside, things seemed calm, but Haruto Minase, who had been personally slaughtered by his father once, saw everything clearly. Just now, Reiji Kurogane was definitely defending against some unlucky guy. The balcony was calm, without thunder, just a few small vests drifting to the ground. Haruto Manase, however, sensed something was wrong. The ability user's aura had just erupted. How could the noise be so quiet? Haruto Manase and Itsuki Saigusa returned to their room, muttering under his breath that Reiji Kurogane must have made a move. Itsuki Saigusa's eyes instantly tensed. You'd experience it firsthand. He stared intently at Haruto Manase, his eyes full of confusion. Haru Manase calmly coughed, his fist covering his mouth. Adults only manipulate these matters, but it's best to let the adults know. But Haruto Manase's adult demeanor combined with his thin figure was completely inadequate for his authority. Itsuki Saigusa began to suspect that these geniuses were just pretending to be adults, but maybe they had some bad habits. The government has no idea. I have eyes that can see through everything. I can not only see everyone's information, but also anticipate their actions and thoughts. So when the government wanted to prevent me from destroying the world, when 2 big shots were sent to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me, I immediately sensed something was wrong. Haruto Manase smiled and patted his head, exuding a grown-up aura. Suddenly, the topic shifted, and Haruto Manase asked if the earlier disturbance among the ability users was related to him. Itsuki Saigusa frowned deeply. "Brother, you might be targeted. This must have already been exposed." He looked tense, worried that villains might use Haruto Manase's power. However, Haruto Manase remained calm and stood tall, looking rather proud and complacent. In his previous life, he was a prized commodity in society, and now he imagined that after the H2 interview, he got the best pay and was called a status reversal. Unfortunately, this wasn't fantasy. It was real life. Itsuki Saigusa worried, thinking this was not something to be happy about. "You could be kidnapped at any moment." Haruto Manase looked relaxed. "They knocked down my super strength clothes first, then the system certified the strongest. Who could compare?" Itsuki Saigusa sighed and admired Haruto Manase's attitude. If Reiji Kurogane knew how much he trusted him, he would probably be quite happy. Haruto Manase was actually curious whether Reiji Kurogane would casually kill that suspicious person. If he hadn't, I'd want to go experience it myself. Itsuki Saigusa's mouth twitched as he imagined that the Kasuma Gaseki headquarters were sweating profusely when they heard Haruto Manase's comment. Unless someone can provide a more comfortable environment for Haruto Manase Insurance, it's impossible for a fission to insult the small ontology and point out safety in reality. Letting out a breath, Itsuki Saigusa felt that those bad guys hadn't even managed to safely bathe the fish around the environment and hadn't appeared to avoid them. Just then, Aoi Shirasaki knocked on Haruto Manase's door. "And your friends came to see you?" The room instantly refreshes a little boy with a sub-zero appearance, cautiously below zero. "Are we watching Magic Boy today?" Haruto Manase couldn't agree, but first asked Zhang everything. "You just said you didn't encounter any strange situations when entering Sakuragaoka Heights, Lin?" She recalled that the wind was strong just now, and several serious adults in Midori Park were searching for things. Haruto Manase immediately responded. The people's fragmented reasoning emerged, with 2 possibilities, either searching for fragments or suspicious individuals escaping and hiding. What was the people's fragment? Itsuki Saigusa and Sora Amamiya were both curious. Haruto Manase smiled slightly, rubbed the little boy's head with both hands, and told him not to know about it. Even though Itsuki Saigusa was a genius and supernatural Sora Amamiya was quite knowledgeable. But in Haruto Manase's eyes, both needed to guard the abstract hell, so it was best to keep quiet. Next, Haruto Manase asked Itsuki Saigusa and Sora Amamiya to reveal their identities of the same kind. Itsuki Saigusa only needed to say they were of the same kind. Sora Amamiya looked confused, slightly frustrated, afraid of being isolated. He had just made a new friend, and it was rare to find someone with the same number, but he was still being excluded. But Itsuki Saigusa didn't delay Sora Amamiya's imagination. Before the ending, he directly revealed his identity. "Sora Amamiya, I'm also an ability user." As soon as he finished speaking, Itsuki Saigusa cast a screen of blindness, and Sora Amamiya instantly saw the scene he wanted to see. The next second, Sora Amamiya's eyes lit up. "So you were also a young man of magic?" Sora Amamiya's eyes lit up, but he wasn't surprised at all. Haruto Minase flapping laughed, and had already guessed that Itsuki Saigusa's magical boy form had even pulled him into an illusion to transform into a magical boy. Lin and Jaxia looked overwhelmed with happiness, collapsing onto the bed, looking as if heaven had descended. Hands pressed together, moved to heaven on the spot. Haruto Minase saw Sora Amamiya about to drift away, so he quickly signaled Itsuki Saigusa to stop. Don't let him taste too much success. If he awakens and gains the Mad Palace attribute, we'll be in danger. Itsuki Saigusa looked completely confused, unable to keep up with the pace. Immediately after, Sora Amamiya looked at Itsuki Saigusa and excitedly shouted, "Little Itsuki, you want to join the Magical Boy Alliance too, okay, Haruto?" Nan actually suspected that just wearing the Magical Boy's outfit could win Sora Amamiya's attention, but Itsuki Saigusa was completely confused. This was the first time he had heard about the Magic Youth Alliance, and it felt especially unserious. Sora Amamiya immediately explained, "Of course, it's an alliance formed by our magical boys. I am the magical boy Suize, Haruto Minase is the magical boy Tongyao." Haruto Minase shook his head on the spot, denying it. The embarrassment was too much to meet Itsuki Saigusa's gaze. Sora Amamiya was incredibly good at imagining things, and Haruto Minase almost wanted to use the cradle to shake the front back. Itsuki Saigusa was stunned, so that's how it was. He knew Sora Amamiya liked playing the role of a magical boy, but he hadn't expected such an alliance. Since Haruto Minase was also involved, Itsuki Saigusa decisively agreed, so he should join too. Actually, he felt a bit conflicted. If the teacher knew he was mixing Sora Amamiya's problem with Sora Amamiya and joined him, they'd probably be so angry they wouldn't be able to handle him. Because Sora Amamiya was basically a lone hero in the Countermeasures Bureau, refusing group training, the wordless man who played with him was dragged along. But now, with Haruto Minase stationed and the teacher worrying, Itsuki Saigusa could only tremble in fear. Itsuki Saigusa imagined the teacher being afraid of Haruto Minase and couldn't help but chuckle. Haruto Minase saw this and nodded in agreement. With him around, all doubts had to be silenced. The government has no idea. I have eyes that can see through everything. Not only can you see everyone's information, but you can also predict each other's actions and thoughts. When the government tries to stop me from being contemptuous, when 2 big shots were sent to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me, I immediately sensed something was wrong. Sora Amamiya was so happy that he cheered as if he had truly transformed into a magical boy. But after that second, his mood suddenly dropped. Sora Amamiya said sadly, "My punishment still has 5 days until it ends. Otherwise tonight, we can collectively protect Yokohama." The trio is the most classic magical boy duo. Haruto Minase replied perfunctorily, firmly denying that I wasn't a magical boy, but a strategist. "Staff officer, got it?" Nan was afraid of being secretly admired by Sora Amamiya's hairy magical boy identity, and even more afraid of Sora Amamiya's power attribute manipulating Haruto Minase's taunt maxed out all mental power, or not split into normal power so even the young boys around him wouldn't be spared. Unfortunately, this attribute really isn't very good. Embarrassing at home, Haruto Minase realizes that among the 3 of them, he himself has become the evil machine. The topic of the Magical Boy League ended. Next, it was time to watch the anime world. Sora Amamiya was fully attentive, staring intently at the screen, unable to take his eyes off. Itsuki Saigusa also took tutoring seriously, completely breaking free from yesterday's pleading habits. Since joining the league means taking full responsibility, this kind of life actually feels much easier. Haruto Minase was pondering his plan for the evening. The recent fluctuations of his supernatural ability made him itch with excitement. He wanted to take advantage of the fission to go slack off, since it wasn't a proper job so he could do whatever he wanted. Time flew by, and the afternoon dropped below 0. They went home, promised to continue tomorrow, and for almost half the time, they spent almost half of their time at Haruto Minase's house, filled with a strong young man, Haruto Minase welcomed such lovely friends at any time. At dinner time, Reiji Kurogane unexpectedly appeared at the table, appearing calm on the surface but actually keeping a close eye on Haruto Minase throughout. Recently, Sakuragaoka Heights' security has been poor. During this period, people say not to go out, but in reality, the focus is on Haruto Minase. Everyone knows this well. Haruto Minase blinked, his gaze mentioned, and the system notification popped up. This morning, Reiji Kurogane found traces of a Sequence 012 ability user in Midori Park. The long-range attack failed, and the suspected target was Haruto Minase. He expected the other party would still probe, and Reiji Kurogane personally reminded him to be careful. 12. This number was familiar. Haruto Minase remembered encountering a mysterious object in Midori Park before, and unexpectedly came again this time. He even fell in love with Reiji Kurogane, but survived a single strike and was as desperate as Dajiang. Nanshun then made it clear that she liked staying in her room, finally having a reason to relax and slack off. Reiji Kurogane promised to wrap up and go out after meals to get busy, much like a hard-working old father. No need to act. He naturally has a strong presence. After dinner that night, Aoi Shirasaki cleaned up the dishes. He watched Haruto Minase enter the bathroom and then chatted with Itsuki Saigusa, who was helping out, so there was no need to go wash together. Itsuki Saigusa gently shook his head, saying it was no need. Aoi Shirasaki was curious, kid. Your mental state today was completely different from yesterday. He squinted his eyes, looking like he wanted to uncover the inside story. Did you complete the mission? Completing his assignment meant Itsuki Saigusa had obtained information about Haruto Minase's supernatural abilities. At this moment, Itsuki Saigusa seemed to relax. The pressure was swept away, and the task was not completed. There was no need to rush to leave. His spirit was refreshed, and his whole state improved, like a horse freed from hardship, finally breathing a sigh of relief. However, Itsuki Saigusa smiled and shook his head, saying it was impossible. It was still a long time ago, and I might stay in this house for a long time. Aoi Shirasaki went with the flow, so she worked hard. She could stay in this family as long as she wanted. He never rushed her. For Aoi Shirasaki, being a good mother was enough. After a moment, Haruto Minase came out of the bathroom, steaming all over. Tonight's game time officially began. This time, he live-streamed the operations and fed the audience, Haruto Minase holding the katana and eager to give it a try. The difference was that tonight, with Itsuki Saigusa accompanying him, his gaze fixed intently, full of interest. This attention became Haruto Minase's motivation, making him play games with even more effort, skillfully executing his skills with almost no mistakes. No, I'll have my adoptive father get you a computer. The moment I ask, he'll take care of it. Itsuki Saigusa shook his head. No, just keep playing. I'm happy watching you win. Haruto Minase insists on that business. If I want to play online, you have to slack off with me. Itsuki Saigusa smiled and nodded. All right, Haruto. Nanksen swear to worry. The configuration definitely sliding door. The time was set to 10. Haruto Minase Guan. The computer pushed Itsuki Saigusa back to his room, ready to sleep. Remember to wake me up tomorrow. Itsuki Saigusa smiled. I'll wake my brother up on time. Good night sent to Haruto Minase. A single echo echoes, lights off, bedside down, eyes especially bright in the darkness. Hee hee, tonight going fishing night. The colors are hazy, the wind is rising, and night is deepening. The best time for fishing enforcement. The government has no idea. I have eyes that can see through everything. Not only can you see everyone's information, but you can also predict their actions and thoughts. So when the government tries to stop me from showing contempt, when two big shots came to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me, I immediately sensed something was wrong. Haruto Minase's split body quietly left the room, leaving Sakuragaoka Heights behind, completely covered and only hazy and vulnerable. The retreat was done with Haruto Minase and Nanyue becoming increasingly skilled. Such a skill even scared him, but he didn't dare be careless, keeping a low profile. He walked all the way toward Midori Park that day, not approaching recklessly, but observing from afar, the streetlights were lit, illuminating broken trees and ground marks. Though small, they were very eye-catching. This Haruto Zhong skill, Haruto Minase Push, Deduction King, Reiji Kurogane Yan, carved, deliberately controlled the attack range. Otherwise, Midori Park would have long since become a ruin. Haruto Minase imagined the night scene. The enemy could strike and run away instantly. It was so impressive. And this kind of operation was actually a bit like himself. Could it be that the Sequence 012 ability user has already run away? Haruto Minase muttered softly. His mental power increased to 28, and the fission lasted nearly 3 hours. He had plenty of time outside, so he couldn't pull him out, so it was basically a wasted outing. Just as he was regretting it, a chilling aura suddenly swept over from behind. "Are you looking for me?" Haruto Minase reflexively turned his head in an instant. A storm swept across a kilometer. A mysterious figure had already reached its tentacles, dragging Haruto Minase into darkness. The park was filled with massive blade rockets. Rockets of massive blades rapidly descended, and Reiji Kurogane descended rapidly, gazing at the place of mutation. Silence prevailed, and sure enough, no one was still lingering nearby. Sequence 012. The ability to survive is extremely strong. If the distance is too far, it cannot be hit. Unless facing each other head-on, Reiji Kurogane finds it difficult to take her down. This person is the top troublemaker in the Countermeasures Bureau, and many superpowered individuals are under control. The Countermeasures Bureau's superpowered user cursed Sequence 012. The ancestor could line from the north gate of Kasumigaseki headquarters to the south gate, truly a form of hatred and retribution. Reiji Kurogane failed to succeed, but he stayed still, wondering if someone had just been taken away. Reiji Kurogane possesses a Fengdan radar with an extremely wide coverage range. With various precision adjustments, it can distinguish between ordinary people and superpowered users, and it can also locate special targets. As soon as the target enters the domain, Reiji Kurogane instantly captures it. Sequence 012 had already been marked by Reiji Kurogane, which allowed him to strike simultaneously the moment he appeared. Although it failed, it stopped his move, making the chance of Sequence 0 to 12, taking Haruto Minase K almost 0. Now the problem arose. Reiji Kurogane clearly saw the enemy take away the supernatural power, but couldn't sense that person's presence. That person seemed somewhere between existence and non-existence. Even ignoring the domain, Reiji Kurogane closed his physical collision perception and focused only on the demeanor of the ability user. Ordinary people weren't targets, and Sequence 012 couldn't take ordinary people away. Reiji Kurogane retraced his steps back to the house he was focused on and entered the living room. Aoi Shirasaki hadn't rested, and Reiji Kurogane quietly went to check on her. The wind gallbladder domain did not cover Haruto Minase's room. This was a well-established rule that protected him without constant surveillance. Aoi Shirasaki nodded and quietly walked to Haruto Minase's room, pushed it open, and entered. Aoi Shirasaki's steps were extremely light, like a mother checking on her child late at night. She pushed open the door, and Haruto Minase lay sideways on the bed. One leg raised high, the blanket kicked off her flat belly, completely unmasked, her voice soft and foolish, sleeping soundly, afraid you'd get out of bed one day. Aoi Shirasaki smiled helplessly and personally, tucked Haruto Minase beneath the blanket, and when the bell rang, she immediately slipped out the door. In the living room, Reiji Kurogane was still waiting. "Sleeping is perfectly normal," Aoi Shirasaki replied briefly. Reiji Kurogane nodded and then said, "I'll check if anyone in Sakuragaoka Heights is missing." They immediately reported the situation to the entire community, quickly screening like running a computer program, and found that not a single person was missing. This time, the psychic was completely confused by the test bureau. Since no one was missing, who exactly took the Sequence 0 and 12 espers away? At the same time, Haruto Minase had already been taken away and fled far away. The surroundings were pitch black, as if thrown into a super viscous liquid, yet he didn't feel damp or sticky at all. Fortunately, this eerie experience didn't last long. Haruto Manase suddenly took a breath of fresh air. His first words weren't fear, but glared angrily at the mysterious person. "If you have the guts to kidnap someone, can't you at least be gentler and take me away?" He was silent for a few seconds before slowly speaking. "That day I suspected you were a paper kid." Haruto Manase almost exploded on the spot. A fake move on site, left and right, scouting signals, classic internet roast signals, looking for palms to beat up. Mrs. Zhang even dares to argue, mock, and curse me. Next time, Reiji Kurogane's ultimate punishment sequence 012 expression froze new, saying, "This personality doesn't seem like someone trained by the Countermeasures Bureau. I can't have caught the wrong person, right? The country doesn't know if I have eyes that see through everything." He could only see everyone's trust and also predict the other party's actions and thoughts. When the government prevented me from being contemptuous, when two big shots came to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me, I immediately sensed something was wrong. Haruto Manase, however, had already calmed himself and shifted his eyes. He took the initiative to ask, "Sister, what are you wandering around near Sakuragaoka Heights? Aren't you afraid of being caught by Reiji Kurogane?" Haruto Manase's Huobao remark was 012 degrees Celsius. Thinking Haruto Manase was worthless, bringing in bad people would probably make the Countermeasures Bureau laugh them off. The key point was that the woman wasn't an ordinary person. Otherwise, she wouldn't know these communities were forbidden zones. So he decided to lay his cards on the table and investigate the mysterious Esper who killed the Enma, passing by the county district. Haruto Manase blinked and immediately saw through it. On a whim, he came to court to gather intelligence, but as soon as he stepped onto the field, he was about to die suddenly and nearly lost to Reiji Kurogane. This kid is truly frustrating. Haruto Manase wasn't slow to react. He changed the subject, thinking about investigating the mysterious superpowered user. He said long ago that it was the Enma that I personally took down the demon. Sequence 012 Wenyan looked up at Haruto Manase, but instead grinned, her expression more arrogant than anyone's. "If you don't believe me, your face turns cold as a blade." The lively energy just now instantly vanishes, instantly becoming faster, more precise, and ruthless. Enma wanted to join the superpowered organization, killing and sabotaging the organization. His tone lowered, and the atmosphere instantly cooled. Sequence 012. Feeling the change in emotion, I looked up and became serious, probing with your voice on sight. Haruto Manase gritted his teeth. The quality of his gaze and voice, I heard screams and saw a lot of things I shouldn't have. "You thought I was definitely asleep that night, still full of nightmares." To be fair, he could hold on thanks to his strong mindset, or else he'd collapse long ago. Interesting, keep talking about it. Listening to Sequence 012, I was first interested in Haruto. Haruto snorted and skipped the build-up, giving the conclusion first. In the end, I killed Enma in front of the Countermeasures Bureau. He left no room for questions. Sequence 12's expression went still. If this mysterious figure in black mist was really Haruto, then his acting was flawless. Haruto did not bother hiding the truth. Black mist rose from his feet and swallowed his body, twisting his voice into something eerie. Guess for yourself. Do you need me to replay it for you? Sequence 012 stared at him, then laughed in disbelief. She had casually gone looking for the mysterious ability user who killed Enma and somehow found exactly the person she needed. Whatever you did, the fact that you killed Enma proves you are strong enough to join us. Haruto remained silent, puzzled by how pleased the man seemed. Sequence 012 suddenly remembered something. You said you were a sequence ability user. Was that actually true? Haruto's eyes narrowed. First, answer my question. Was Enma one of your people? The numerical fission was already prepared in case things went wrong. Sequence 012 sneered. No. He was just a fool who thought becoming a sequence ability user would let him join us. If he had dared to come to our door, I probably would have dealt with him myself. Haruto Manase was stunned, afraid of sharpening his knife, ready to go head-to-head, but his partner was immediately rejected by his own family. This pent-up anger burst through the balloon. The black mist drifted away, and his identity was exposed. He returned to his true form. You said everything you said is true, real, I have it. Someone who needs to lie can crush sequence 012 with a single move. Tone firm, the atmosphere shifted. Haruto Minase realized the other party wasn't lying. He blinked and turned to the woman, puzzled. Are you a good person? Directly rebuked sequence 012 as a matter of course. I think so. You say yes? Then Haruto Minase's tone was completely frenzied, as if he'd encountered a monster-focused style. Sequence 012 doesn't care at all. Opposing the Countermeasures Bureau makes them the bad guys. When do they have the right to define good and evil? I only help those who can't break free from their fate. Let them choose their own path. Is it wrong to see Haruto Minase suddenly die? Director, do whatever you want. I won't get involved in this discussion. There's no point in saying more. Slacking off is the most comfortable thing. After all, she unintentionally got involved in the team. Just as he was about to make a quick escape, Haruto Minase's steps were stopped by a single sentence. The country doesn't know if I have eyes that see through everything. I can not only see everyone's information, but also anticipate their actions and thoughts. So when the government tries to stop me from showing contempt, 2 big shots came to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me. I immediately sensed something was wrong. Wait, you really plan to go back and play the life industry with the Countermeasures Bureau? Want to make a living? Haruto Minase rolled his eyes, unemployed, and superpowered people had to endure hunger and sleep under bridges. He absolutely refused. Sequence 012, Dexterity. Her tone was slow but sharp. Since we're both ability users, join us. We control our fate. No one can be single. Haruto Minase hesitated for 3 seconds, his interest faint. Haruto had no intention of getting involved, but in the next round, a flash of inspiration struck his mind. Also, recently brought home a child about your age, whose friend is in a bad state, and maybe a peer can help him. Haruto Minase's eyes lit up instantly, and he got excited. Took me along and took me over. Righteousness is right, so it's normal. There's no reason not to support it. After all, it's just a faction, so it's worth seeing it, especially since this isn't a terrorist organization's stronghold. Sequence 012. Sequence 012 nodded decisively without hesitation, pulling Haruto Minase to traverse the dark history. The slim pattern passed through the strange sensations of the walking circle, reappearing, but fortunately it didn't last long. When they opened their eyes, they stepped into a Hakone country estate on the outskirts, far from Yokohama's bottom line, staying safe and avoiding the harassment and gaze of the Countermeasure Bureau. Let's go! Sequence 012. Leading the way, Haruto Minase cleverly follows, eyes scanning the courtyard, looking left and right. As they stepped into the courtyard, Yor's male voice suddenly sounded in their ears, and this time they brought back an adorable little creature. Then came a lively voice. Are you addicted to, Grandpa Uni? Even cats and dogs love to cut Haruto along the way. Nan listened to each one, letting his hair crack up. The white fur was raised on the spot, exuding a commanding presence. Who are the cats and dogs? He even dares to take the branch monster Reiji Kurogane for this. What do you mean? The cat you brought back has quite a temper. Call me Cat. Haruto Minase frowns angrily, looks back angrily, and glares angrily at the person who happened on the night of the incident. The night falls deeply. The moonlight bathes the courtyard like gentle ink and gentle words, gently swaying and moving away. Above sit a young man, gentle and solitary. His feet are slightly off the ground, and without the copyright holder's written permission, no covering, copying, or use is allowed. Without written permission from the copyright holder, no repercussions, transcriptions, or use are allowed. Traces of traces and traces of traces of traces and traces of traces of traces of traces and traces and traces and traces and traces. Late at night, alone in the courtyard like a swing, the scene was so magical it made even ghosts worry. If it weren't for the youthful temperament of his youth, Haruto Minase might have scared him first. Haruki Amaji Bai argues with new companions. Sequence 012 tone is calm. Beside Haruto Minase, Haruki Amagi Qingxiao fell to the ground and the swing came to a halt. Mu Ruo, you're still so boring, with a hint of disdain. After a brief conversation, Haruto Minase immediately remembered the name, so it wasn't called Number Mutual Name. The tone was a joke. If you calmly shake your head, we are companions. The cold code will only drive us further apart. Only Ayame Kurobane was so pretentious, another voice chimed in, ascending and landing gracefully, turning lightly and clapping Haruto Minase Xiang. Supporting each other is well said, but others don't have the mixia you imagine. Haruki Amagi is getting closer step by step, full of enthusiasm. Sure enough, this cat is much gentler than the previous one, but it looks hard to approach. Then he turned to look at sequence 0 and 12, hesitating and commenting, confirming that it really was the ability user you brought from outside. No matter how you looked at it, it looked like he had been kidnapped from some happy family. Could it be a human trafficker? Haruki Amagi looked completely clueless, but spoke sharply, never showing any expression, his tone sharp but sharp. But Haruki Amagi didn't get angry at her, so his emotions remained steady. Sequence 012 stood to the side, her gaze cold and indifferent. She was an ability user, young enough to kill the Enma and still shake off the tracking of the Countermeasures Bureau's ability users. Ordinary people couldn't do that. When Haruki Amagi heard he had one hand and no mouth, he was surprised to come back carrying someone's life. I thought he was just acting cute, but he was so fierce. Fierce and fierce. Will scratching your head get scratched? Haruki Amagi flickered with curious eyes as he approached. Haruto Minase directly responded to that life-saving Enma, but it was just an ant. I just drove him to death. Haruki Amagi smiled calmly, pressing closer, and if you ask me to pat my head, I agree with you. Haruto Minase refused twice. Bad Cat Haruto Minase snorted and decisively stepped back, completely avoiding Haruki Amagi's outstretched hand. Don't think that just because your face looks good, you can touch it casually. Haruki Amagi turned his back and laughed out loud, ha ha ha. This time, he really found something interesting, so he definitely won't be bored anymore. After saying that, he waved to Haruto Minase and turned to leave. There's still a chance to play slowly. Remember not to run out of your house and become a stray cat, or I'll definitely catch you back. Haruto Minase puffed out his cheeks as he watched Haruki Amagi's back, complaining about why everyone here was full of weirdos. Sequence 012 answered calmly, hard to say. Haruto Minase suddenly remembered something and turned his head. What is your sequence number? Sequence 012 answered without hesitation. Sequence 009. Oh, everyone asks and counts, Haruto Minase instinctively exclaimed, tilting his head, immediately asking, is it really that strong? The government has no idea. I have eyes that can see through everything. I can not only see everyone's information, but also anticipate their actions and thoughts. So when the government wanted to prevent me from destroying the world, when 2 big shots were sent to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me, I immediately sensed something was wrong. In fact, Haruto Minase had always tried to mislead the sequence number. He came with sequence 001, and it was said to destroy Yokohama. But could the rest really do it? Not necessarily. Otherwise, Reiji Kurogane wouldn't have to keep an eye on him. Fortunately, sequence 0 and 12 happen to have some opinions on this. According to explanations, the top 10 ability users have huge potential. And the Countermeasures Bureau estimates that as long as their mental power breaks through to S level, a single person can destroy a country. Haruto Minase's eyes widened in shock. That wasn't the second Reiji Kurogane. This is bad, and unexpectedly, there are several strange signs in the group. Sequence 012 shook her head and added that Haruki Amagi still had plenty of room for improvement. The future of Haruto Minase Miaodo is promising. If you can't win now, don't worry during that period. Sequence 012 is here again. Even if Haruki Amagi's mental power reaches S level, he might not be able to break through Reiji Kurogane. His eyes were full of fear and vigilance. After all, he had experienced Reiji Kurogane's ruthlessness all too well. The only thing he could sum up was, Don't think about fighting head-on. Run away at the slightest opportunity. Haruto Minase listened clearly, silently marveling at the difference between Phantom God and T-Zero. Sequence 012 will quickly switch to the battlefield and let's go. The other teammates haven't rested yet, so I'll take you to get to know them. Staying up so late and still not sleeping. Haruto Minase quietly complained, rubbing his hands together. The two walked down the corridor and entered the spacious living room. Judging by the hundreds of square meters of the house, the elegant gowns. Haruto Minase finally asked, curiously, "How did you find such a mansion?" Series 012. Understated, luxury countryside entertainment residences we temporarily borrow. Whether it was passive borrowing is unknown. Haruto Minase began to examine the interior decoration. Outside, the Hakone country estate was styled like a Western castle, with stairs on both sides leading directly to the second floor. The atmosphere was intense, and the style was high-end. It had to be said, this tycoon really knew how to have fun. Sequence 012 walked to the center of the hall, where a shadow extended at her feet. Nearly 10 fuses quickly climbed down to the second floor, clearly knocking on the door, sneaking out, and greeting her new companion. The first to appear was Haruki Amagi, who had just left. Haruki Amagi, "Hi, we meet again?" Haruki Amagi playfully walked around to Haruto Minase's side. Haruto Minase was watching him warily. "What are you up to now?" Haruki Amagi winked and smiled at ceremonial occasions. "Of course I wouldn't miss it, right?" After saying that, they circled Haruto Minase once, deliberately bent down, leaned in close, their eyes full of deep affection, and Zichu showing a charming smile. The atmosphere instantly filled up, a rare gathering for everyone. Just as Haruto Minase was preparing to breathe and counterattack, there was suddenly a commotion upstairs. Someone came downstairs. He looked closely and saw a petite figure. Sequence 012 introduced him quietly. "That's Hakuto Shirogane, sequence 028. He may need your help." Haruki Amagi immediately warned Haruto, "That's the most unstable one here. Don't tease him. It isn't fun." The clatter of shoes echoed repeatedly in the empty hall at midnight, chilling enough to give you goosebumps. His eyes remained fixed on his feet, never lifting his head. He looked like a puppet with its strings cut. Haruto frowned. Something was definitely wrong. Hakuto Shirogane did not respond. He simply disappeared into the corner. Haruto knew this wasn't an ordinary troubled child. There was a coldness about him, along with a despair that was genuinely difficult to bear. So Haruto asked Ayame directly, "What happened to that kid?" Ayame explained that the Countermeasures Bureau had once classified Hakuto as a dangerous ability user. Psychological counseling had failed completely. The only time Hakuto had ever responded to her was with a brief nod that showed a glimpse of ordinary human emotion, and even that vanished almost immediately. Hakuto's ability was called Cycle. Its potential was enormous, but the ability came with a severe side effect. Ayame spoke about it with unusual seriousness. Haruto gave a wry smile. "No wonder I always want to slack off. Even supernatural abilities can be lazy." Just as Haruto Minase was about to continue asking, footsteps sounded again on the stairs. Kohane Tsukishiro, who had heavy dark circles beneath her eyes, came downstairs complaining, "Ayame, you're disturbing my painting again." She was Sequence 020, an obsessive artist who jokingly called her own ability, "You disturb my painting." She loved to draw and proudly considered herself an art student. Haruto glanced at Kohane and thought to himself, "At this rate, is she going to fail an exam and then take revenge on society?" Kohane Tsukishiro glared, "I heard you, don't say anything bad about me." Haruki Amagi quietly teased her. "She's a bad-tempered little dog who laughs at her own jokes. Not very interesting." Next came Yuzuki Amane, Sequence 011, who had grown tired of being controlled and had finally escaped the Bureau's supervision. Haruto Minase sighed at the extraordinary depth of these companions. Haruki Amagi quietly explained that Ayame, the group's wandering, stray dog, had helped them escape and then lost control of the situation herself. Haruto frowned. "Aren't you worried the Bureau will drag you all back?" "Sooner or later, they will," Ayame said heavily. Haruki Amagi gave her a sarcastic smile. "Stay around long enough, and maybe your lazy little escape will last a bit longer." At that moment, Haruto Manase's mind suddenly echoed. A system notification detected that the target community of Destiny had obtained relevant information and tasks, and the host was asked to check them. The government has no idea. I have eyes that can see through everything. I can not only see everyone's information, but also anticipate their actions and thoughts. So when the government tries to prevent me from dooming the world, when 2 big shots were sent to Hoshikawa Children's Home to adopt me, I immediately sensed that something was wrong. Haruto Manase was stunned. This family home is so spacious, and it only takes a few people to get together. He found himself trapped in a troubled home, yet he saw an opportunity to turn things around. Haruto Manase straightened up, his voice clear and confident. Soon, I will become the #1 righteous person of the time. Follow me as a thug, guaranteed to live a good life. As long as you don't recklessly, I'll have your back. Before he could finish speaking, Hakuto's eyes lit up for the first time. Ayame Kurobane could not help wondering whether Reiji Kuragane's earlier attack had frightened Hakuto half to death. Haruki Amaji laughed approvingly. This kid is interesting. Kohane Tsukishiro muttered that this little brat was getting far too arrogant. His rank is higher than yours, and Haruto Manase didn't back down. He had no intention of revealing his identity, afraid of being closely watched by that branch monster boss. Then Haruto Manase made a suggestion. I only want to do one thing, slack off. But there's no slacking off vibe at all. No mold is allowed. Everyone must change. Unexpectedly, Hakuto walked over, his bright eyes gently applauding, and he said it was good. Haruto Manase's heart-to-yi sex system interface popped up, and the reverse energy cycler Hakuto Shirogane disliked the unchanging state due to his closed heart. Your appearance made him wake up, earning him 5 attribute points. Look, this opening was really exciting. Haruto Manase secretly laughed that he and the young lady might be a perfect match. Moreover, he gradually understood that Hakuto Shirogane's extraordinary potential, despite his immense potential and side effects, was likely the key to his redemption. Hakuto disliked monotonous, repetitive life, which made him close off his heart. Back when he was under control at the Countermeasures Bureau, he may have been repeating the same people's directness. When Ayame Kurobane appeared and waited for him to leave, the sudden change made him show genuine happiness. However, after returning, Hakuto falls back into the old cycle. The key is that he cannot break the cycle on his own. Someone must guide him to change. But the people around him were like scattered sand, neither noticing the problem nor able to help him out of trouble. Only Haruto Manase, relying on the system's power, saw Hakuto Shirogane's true needs. Ayame Kurobane was so surprised. She hadn't expected that after just a few words, Hakuto would actually improve. Haruki Amaji couldn't help but exclaim, wow, he actually improved. How did he manage to do that? Haruto Manase didn't hold back and added 5 points to mental strength, jumping directly from 28 to 33. This meant that his next fission would erupt, and his extreme mental power slam would be even more powerful, possibly lasting longer, and his mood instantly brightened. Don't worry, Hakuto. From now on, follow me, and every day will bring you different happiness. Hakuto nodded vigorously, showing Haruto an unusual amount of affection. Haruto was the first person to promise him that life would keep changing, instead of becoming another endless repetition. Haruto found himself liking Hakuto as well, not only because of the 5 attribute points, but because their ordinary stat panels were surprisingly close. Sora's spirit stat was already over 400 after transformation, while his other attributes were nothing to sneeze at. Haruto, by contrast, was extremely weak whenever he wasn't using fission. Normally, Haruto was so weak that almost anyone could suppress him with ease. The contrast made Hakuto's ordinary-looking but highly promising panel especially valuable. Finding a partner like Hakuto, whose normal stats were modest but whose potential was enormous, made Haruto feel unexpectedly close to him. Low stats don't matter, but having big growth potential is precious. The key is having strong skills. Haruto gently pulled Hakuto aside. First of all, this group of ours is a complete mess. We need to change that. Haruki Amaji simply smiled and clapped. Ayame had never acted like a leader and mostly wandered around doing whatever she pleased. At the very least, we should have regular group activities. A normal family spends time together. They might study, work, eat together, or at least play games. Ayame had brought everyone together, but she had never actually built anything. She would disappear into her own world and occasionally drag another person back with her. Haruto wondered what kind of future such an organization could possibly have. Haruki Amagi finally spoke. I agree, but what can we actually do? Maybe Ayame should look for more people like us. Ayame was silent for a moment. I heard there may be a place where other controlled ability users like us are being kept. Haruto immediately frowned. You don't mean the area around Sakuragaoka Heights that we just passed, do you? Ayame nodded, her expression darkening. Yes, but Reiji Kurogane is guarding it, and there are other powerful users there too. Even if I sacrificed myself to lure Reiji away, you would have trouble getting anyone out. Haruto muttered to himself that their first team-building trip might end in complete disaster. Then he stopped. Wait, how do you know there are ability users there? Haruto remembered that Reiji Kurogane and Aoi Shirasaki had mentioned an internal section of the Countermeasures Bureau, but the people standing here certainly didn't look like members of any internal department. Ayame shook her head. I have searched from one region to another. By chance, I heard rumors that former sequence users were being held somewhere under guard. I went to investigate, and that's when I discovered Reiji Kurogane was personally involved. Ayame sighed and shook her head. Looks like we'll have to wait until you're all stronger before we can make a move.